Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us, those who are in person and those who are online. So I would like to call the meeting to, oh, call the meeting to order. So let's go ahead and just do a roll call.
Councilmember Harden, Ward 1 present.
Councilmember Irina Hobbs, Ward 2 present.
Councilmember Brooks, Ward 3 present.
Councilmember Melinda Mendoza, Ward 4, present.
Great, and now we'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go over the agenda real quick and then ask for approval of the agenda. So number 5 on the agenda are presentations. I see we have Senator Augustine on the line, so I'll go ahead and just add him as the number 5 under presentations. We have the consent agenda, the mayor's report, council member reports and concerns. We'll open it up for resident comments, action, new business. Then we'll call a closed session for a personnel and contractual matter, and then we'll adjourn. And yeah, and that'll be it for the agenda. Can I get an approval or ask for a motion to approve the agenda?
Keith Brooks makes the motion to approve the agenda.
Councilmember Hobbs seconded.
All in favor? Oh, actually, discussion?
On the, and is Dan Baden online? Okay. All right. So if we did want to discuss it in the budget, so we should have ended the fiscal year 2023 in June, and it shows that original gross profit was estimated at 3.6 million, and then we adjusted it to 2.6.
Sorry, can, just hold on a second. So, yeah, so what is it? You want to add something to the agenda? You want to talk about the budget, or what's the concern?
To talk about the discrepancy.
To talk about a discrepancy in the budget. Okay.
Yep.
So when do we want to add this under the treasurer's report? Okay. So can we get Mr. Baden? Can someone call him to see what's going on? Okay. Any other discussion on the agenda?
Yes, so I'd like to add check auditors and check signers discussion to the agenda. Thank
Okay.
you.
Anyone else want to add anything? Okay, so all in favor of the agenda and the addition, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. So let's go ahead and get Senator Augustine. Hi, Senator. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Senator Malcolm Augustine, just here joining you virtually, really here to listen to what is going on in the beautiful town of Colmar Manor. Also, though, here also just to remind folks that or to request from the town if there are any legislative asks or either that or capital budget asks, that now is really the time for us to be thinking about that. Even though the legislative session does not start until next January, the proposals and working with the state really do happen in August timeframe for state, and legislative they start and happen in really October and November. So just wanted to be here to bring greetings, and to, if there are any questions for me, more than happy to answer. There's been a lot that's occurred obviously in this last legislative session, but also again just to ask for you all to think about and bring forward those ideas and concepts that support the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Augustine. So can you give us some examples of like some legislative asks that we can put forth? I have some ideas, but I definitely want to open it up to the council for discussion, but can you give us some examples?
Sure. Some of it may be, for example, something that the town is interested in. So there was conversation, sometimes there are conversations that come before us. Like say, for example, there was a discussion around whether or not to allow for municipalities to be able to take ownership of streetlights, for example. Anywhere those places where you have the jurisdiction that the town may or may not want to have, expansion of jurisdiction, reduction of jurisdiction. That's really, there are those places in state law that we actually do that and make those kinds of changes. Then, of course, there are also on the capital project side of things. If there are capital projects, anything that would be between greater than 5 years of use, that would be a capital project. It's not all, we do those as grants, so there's not a match that would go with that. But the idea would be to identify those kinds of things now and try our very best to get, if there were some capital projects that the town had in mind, to try to get the governor's budget to take on at least a portion of it. I mean, there is not a match for those capital projects, but most often the part that the state provides is a percentage of a project, so that there is commitment from all parties on a particular given project. And those grants are reimbursable grants.
Thank you, Senator. So I'm going to open it up to the council to brainstorm. I mean, we have the senator on the line.
Senator, this is Ward 3, Keith Brooks. I was wondering if a town is trying to redevelop the business area and to rebrand, what are some of the things that you've noticed in your tenure that we could do as a town to help facilitate that? Top 2 or 3 items.
A couple things. This past legislative session, as it relates to what you can do as a town, there are programs, there are state programs for facade improvements and things like that. There are county programs that are available for also things that are sort of specific and facade improvements, and other grants that are available to assist with some of those kinds of things. This past legislative session, I did also create a new Gateway Development Authority and the purpose of setting up this Gateway Development Authority is for the redevelopment and revitalization of the target area. And that target area is Colmar Manor, Cottage City, Bladensburg, Mount Rainier, Brentwood, and North Brentwood. I set this authority up, and we're getting the legs underneath it to do exactly what you were just talking about. The focus of it is in arts. So the focus is to enhance what we already have, which is this kind of naturally occurring wonderful arts area, including the people who live in Colmar Manor, but to create living spaces and workspaces for them, but to do it in the context of redevelopment and of the entire target zone.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, so I'm gonna share something, and then if any of this jogs anyone's, if anyone has any ideas. So Senator, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so you can see. We have a priority list.
Okay.
So I'm not sure that I've spoken to you about this, but I was planning on talking to you about this. So there are a couple of ideas that I have. First off, I want to thank you for creating the Gateway Authority Commission. I'm looking forward to being a part of it, and I think it'll definitely help our area. In regards to our priority list, I have an idea of creating a hospitality program for our area, for the Port Towns area. So we have a lot of space, event space, Colmar Manor being one of them. We have the American Legion, we have the Eritrean Church, which is also in Colmar Manor, the Brentwood Fire Department, Can't think of any other space off the top of my head. And I think that just piggybacking off of what Mayor James is doing with the vocational school, I think that we should look at creating a hospitality program to train residents in the area on how to get into the hospitality industry. So this could be anywhere from catering, event management, um, managing space. So I'm not sure that you're aware, you might be. Our town hall is rented out every single weekend. We are booked out. We are so booked out that we had to actually implement a policy where we don't allow people to book up, to reserve space further out than 3 months, just so that we can have space for our residents in our town. However, I think that if we created something like this to upskill residents, I think it could be very beneficial to people in the area. And it wouldn't just be managing this space, it would be managing the other spaces that I mentioned. So I am actually researching what the Goodwill has in place. They have a program, a hospitality program, and I'm looking to see if we can replicate something similar to that and possibly team up with Employ PG. So when we're talking about programs that can upskill and educate residents, I think this is one idea that I had. The other, which is not on this list, if you haven't had the opportunity to tour the space, the Eritrean church, they have amazing space. They have a beautiful church, and then they have catering space. Part of the rooms that they have back there, one is focused on children. And so I'd like to explore with them possibly creating a daycare center. So we don't have daycare facilities nearby. And I think that that would be a prime location for a daycare center in our community. So that could be an ask in regards to funding. You also know that the American Legion is looking for a new roof. And so I know that they'll approach you, but I'm supporting whatever they're asking for completely. We have some other priorities, which include recreational programming. You'll hear more about it if you stay on some of the grants that we received, but we need a recreation coordinator. We need more support to kind of manage the space and open it up to children and to adults in our community. There's no reason why our gym should lay empty. So we really want to fill it up, but we need money to have people come in and manage the space for us. In regards to economic development, so we have the Gateway Commission that you established that's going to go into effect next year. We need to reimagine what that space could look like. I know that Mayor James in Bladensburg reached out to the University of Maryland, and they were able to get some consulting help from the architecture department there. And they have a whole plan on what the shopping center up on, I think it's on Annapolis. Is it Annapolis where the fork in the road is? 450. So I'm looking to possibly contact University of Maryland to do the same thing with our shopping district. However, it has a lofty price tag, about $20,000. So, however, we need to reimagine the space here. I think that we can do a lot more, and there's an opportunity to improve our business district. And then you mentioned the streetlight acquisition and transition to LED. So these are some of our priority lists, and I'm happy to email it to you and share it with you. And I'm actually getting ready to create a document that I'll present to you at the breakfast that you're hosting at IHOP. So I don't know if have I given you too much? Oh, and
No.
I've talked to you about the gas station. So I know that we're strong in our belief that nothing can be done at the moment, but we do need help figuring that situation out. It's just property that's laying there that I'd love to figure out if we can purchase it, if we can do something with it, if we can bring other investors to look at that property. So these are the areas, these are the stress points for Colmar Manor. And we can use any help or influence that you can give us.
Okay, so this is a very good list. What I definitely would want to receive it in writing. It's great that you have at the lower portion here where you've broken out the capital improvements, because they really are two different mechanisms. The capital ones are a little simpler, I will say. Trying to figure out how to get the operating dollars is I'll just be very honest with you, it's a little challenging. If we do it on some things that are discrete, we may be able to, for example, try to work to get money, which I've done before, in to budget, but it'll look like a capital project for example, for the study that you were talking about. So there are things that we can do, but from the state side of things, it is far more frequently capital projects that are that we have like a pretty straightforward program to fund, particularly for like municipalities and things like that. So definitely share it with me, particularly breaking out the breaking out the capital projects versus some of the operational costs or operational assistance, and but still share it, because we may be able to, as I'm saying, may be able to figure out ways to translate those operating costs, some of the operating costs at least, into sort of like the discrete capital projects, because, and part of the reason for that is these are one-time funds. It's not like ongoing funds, like operating funds that are allocated on each budget cycle. And so that's the reason why it's just a lot easier for them to just be the capital projects.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much, Senator. I'll definitely make sure to get this out to you, and I'll talk to you more about it at the breakfast.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so do we have anyone else? Any other presenters or officials on the line that want to? Okay, I don't think we do. Awesome. So the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. So it's the approval of the minutes, which we currently have none. Department operations reports. So it's the town administrator's report, treasurer's report, public safety, code compliance, public works, committee, board, commission, and task force reports none. At the beginning of the meeting, Councilmember Brooks had a question about the budget, and Councilmember Hobbs wants to talk about the audits of the of our checking account and whatnot. So can we wait till Mr. Baden gets here, and then we'll just talk about it with him? But other than that, he's on his way. Other than that, is there any other discussion on anything in this consent agenda? I'll give you a couple minutes to take a look at it.
I also added the separate page that was off to your right there. On the back side is the Public Works report.
Is there a way at the next meeting we get the police report before with the rest of the packet?
Keith, I'm sorry, can you speak a little louder?
Is there a way that we can get the police report before the meeting with the rest of the packet next month?
So
September?
we don't have a meeting next month,
September.
in September. Okay.
Yep.
Chief?
Thank you.
Just a question. Do we have Public Works report? That's okay. Got you. Yeah. And so to follow up on that, are there tracking? Do you have a tracking system in place that we?
Listen,
discussed?
I need you guys to speak louder. I don't know what's going on with my
Sorry.
ears today, but you got to speak louder.
Sure. So we talked about establishing a tracking system for the incidents. And I wonder if they're using that at this point, or using an Excel file, or how are they tracking on when the incident or the claim was opened, and et cetera.
Yeah, so when a concern is issued to town staff, we are tracking that in Comcate, which is being funded through ARPA. If it's a Public Works, but Public Works is being rolled into that now.
Right, sorry, and
So-
I meant code enforcement report, not Public Works. Sorry.
Oh,
about that.
code
Yes,
enforcement.
sorry,
Yeah, yeah,
sorry.
no problem.
That's.
Yeah, that is all being tracked in the
Okay.
Comcate system.
And so do we get a code enforcement report as well? Like in a few, maybe the next time, or?
I will get you one in, yes, it is tracked. All of his calls for service is self-initiated. the warnings, the citations, which has been a couple, are tracked. In preparing this report, getting that out of Comcate in a form that's easy to understand and easily presentable didn't come together quite as I had liked. So I'm going to work on that, getting something that you can make heads or tails of.
So in the police report for June 2023, there's a line item for gunshots, and then a resident before I came to the meeting informed me in Ward 1 there was a stabbing apparently last month. How do we improve our communication outside of I know sometimes you send us texts, but how do we communicate that to the rest of the community? Or how do we improve that?
For incidents, it really depended upon the incident. I will put out like a community notice, say if we have a serious assault, a homicide, something along those lines, I put out a crime alert. Not every incident is put out that way, but it is all included in the monthly report.
So it's on a monthly basis, but not immediately right after the incident.
If it's trying to think of the most recent, I believe I put out something when during the month there was a homicide in a neighboring jurisdiction that kind of ended on Bladensburg Road. And that I put out a notice because there was a lot of buzz. What's going on Bladensburg Road and what happened? So I put some information out on that. The occasional robberies, things like that, I'll put out, or if there's something if we're seeking additional information, it's really dependent upon the case. Not everyone is put out and not everyone is not put out.
Are there any questions, any discussion needed around the consent agenda? Okay, so yeah, we'll come back to it when Dan arrives. So I'll go ahead and go into the mayor's report. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, does it show up? Does it show up? Okay. Okay, so first off, I just want to thank the town for allowing mayor, council, and the town administrator to attend the Maryland Municipal League in Ocean City. Whoops. How do I go back? There we go. If you take a look, for people that aren't necessarily aware of what this conference is and what the conferences are throughout the year, most of us are enrolled in the Academy of Excellence, which is a certificate that you get after you take some core classes that MML provides. And so they provide workshops around different topics. They include, for example, you'll see on the screen, basics of risk management, consensus and team building, high performing councils. They bring workshops that help upskill elected officials. And just so that you know, residents are also eligible to attend these meetings, but there's a cost associated with it. Anyways, you go into these meetings and you learn. That's basically what you do. And so for, let's say we got there on Sunday, all through Wednesday, you are taking these classes and you're networking. And so this year for me was a lot better than last year. And I asked the council to give me some of the learnings and some of the things that they gained from attending the MML this year, and I'll let them share it when I pop up on that slide. But I'll share what I've learned, and I'll also share some pictures of what the conference looks like. So this is pretty much it. There are rooms with people and facilitators. In this particular photo, you'll notice Governor Moore and Lieutenant Governor Miller. addressing the crowd. They were very involved this year. So elected officials from around Maryland had many opportunities to talk to the governor and interact with the governor and the Lieutenant Governor Miller. And it was nice to see them. And I have some ideas and some inspiration that I've gleaned from this particular gathering. And hopefully we'll get Governor Moore in Colmar Manor in the near future. The town received distinctions. So Colmar Manor received our banner city designation. The Mayor Pro Tem and Council Member Melinda Mendoza is serving on the MML board, and she is also the president of the Prince George's County Municipal Association. So again, congratulations. I decided to run to be on the Maryland Municipal League Board of Directors, and I won the election and I'm elected onto, or I am a member of the Maryland Municipal League. And for me, it's a source of pride. I'm only one of 2 Hispanics, along with Mayor Benitez from Mount Rainier, Hispanic Latinas to ever serve on the board. So for me, it's a big deal and it's an honor. And what I see myself getting out of this is, again, just getting our name out, gaining more influence so we can get, so we can form stronger relationships throughout Maryland with the governor's office, different agencies that can help us. So people know who we are and really make a name for ourselves. That's a picture of Mayor Benitez, Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza, the Mayor of Pocomoke City. And then this is us, Colmar Manor, and our Banner City plaque, which is in Mayor Pro Tem's car. And here is Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza with Governor Moore, which I believe is a beautiful photo. And again, we decided to run up on the stage and take a photo. And here we are at different points. We had a nice dinner together. For us, as mayor and council, it's an opportunity to just build on our working relationships and get to know each other. We have Miss Ross here, who is the Prince George's County liaison, different mayors, Mayor Miller, who is with District Heights. I'm here with the Lieutenant Governor Miller on the Ocean City Boardwalk. I got to play skee ball with Governor Moore, which was a lot of fun. And then the PGCMA threw a party to welcome President Mendoza, and that was a blast. And if you see here, it's just all of the different elected officials throughout Prince George's County, and it was a lot of fun. And then the lower right-hand side are the board members of MML, some of them, not all of them. So personally, what I gained from the MML conference is having the ability to speak to cabinet secretaries. For example, the State Highway Association, I talked to them about one of the signs, directional signs that was down along with a tree. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was me. I'd like to say that it was me. When I came back, it was fixed. It was gone. I've spoken to them about litter along Bladensburg Road, and just figuring out how to clean that area up. I spoke to the Maryland Office of Energy, where they let me know that they have many grants that we should apply to. And I was able to speak to the Office of Community Initiatives. Again, as I mentioned, working on the MML board to get the Colmar Manor name out. And for me, networking is priceless. So networking with other elected officials and getting ideas to address safety, economic redevelopment, and staffing issues. Hi, Mr. Beeden. During the conference as well, they have an expo where people come out and they try to sell you things. Well, there was some public works equipment there that I think will help us, some street cleaning equipment that I'm hoping we can purchase. I know that Cottage City is looking to purchase the same equipment. And so this is just one of many ideas that I have coming back from the conference itself. Malik, you want to? Here, I'll.
I guess.
Oh, you- okay.
Evening, everyone. Councilmember Harden. I'd also like to extend a very big thank you for allowing me to attend MML this year. It was also a great experience for me. Considering my last year, I was very novice inside of the understanding of everything. I didn't know what classes that I should go to or what really pertains to the things that I wanted So I was missing in action. But this year, I felt very directed. I felt like everything was just coming to me naturally. So one of the first things that happened was talking to Mayor James of Bladensburg and rekindling sort of that relationship, but understanding that there was a bigger campaign that we were trying to do originally in 2022, and getting back to that. So I'm really proud to announce that we reestablished initiatives for continuing domestic violence awareness campaigns, and really look forward to working with them. Um, Second, I was able to sit in a forum on addressing mental health and homelessness, and it was really good. It was very informative, but it was also, I don't want to say bleak, but it was a roller coaster, because understanding that there's a bigger issue. It's the statewide issue of homelessness, and the trickling effect from the different factors that lead to it made it a very raw discussion. But also learning that homelessness has decreased by 31% in the state of Maryland was very optimistic, and it gives us hope in the sense that these programs that are being developed throughout the state are helping. So it's really directing more initiative towards the issues that lead to the pipeline. And lastly, I was able to network with elected officials, as you saw in the pictures, and build new relationships, because I'm usually an introvert. I allow my mayor and the council members to go out and do the networking and talk with people. And then a lot of people end up saying, you need to be here more. You need to show your face. You have ideas. And that was the greatest part about the conversation, is seeing the parallels and issues that are in different communities, and seeing how we could work together to tackle those issues. So I really appreciate everyone taking me out and making me go places, because I gained a lot from it.
Councilmember Mendoza.
All right, good evening. I just wanted to reiterate again, like, kudos to Mayor Casañas for making the MML board. For years, a lot, if you know and you don't know, the board is usually made up of the same people who run all the time. And for Mayor Casañas to go for her first time, not get nominated, and then win is awesome. And not only is it, it's even more awesome that it's for Prince George's County on there. We have Mayor James, we've got Mayor Benitez, we've got Mayor Casañas, and then I'm on there as a chapter president on the MML board. So it's like Prince George's is in the house at MML. So, all right, so what I gained from the MML conference, they had a great keynote speaker, Johnny Crowder. His message was on mental health and ways to combat mental health with practical self-care tools, which was, it was very informative. You don't have a picture of them on there. You took like a bunch of them, but Mayor was very, she made sure that she had pictures with them. Another thing, this year, it was sold out with 250 exhibitors. So you got to meet with different exhibitors, and they would show you public works equipment and vehicles, stuff that you can use for recreation, wastewater supplies, just anything that's available to municipalities. It was there that you could try out. Attending the various Academy core classes. I know sometimes that can be a blow because you're in there forever, but it's good for you. One of the ones I went to was consensus and team building for local government. So what I really like that MML does is just the networking. You get to mix and mingle with pretty much anyone in Maryland, and it's good. So that's pretty much my thing, MML.
Thank you. And Mr. Holcomb?
I don't remember what I wrote as much as you all did. Oh, yes. So some of the, oh,
Is it not
us know. Yeah, so I took some classes while I was there, like many others. The ones that I focused on were the processes and legal considerations for annexations. I found that to be very interesting, and something that the town may need to look at in the future. Another course was on procurement. So the process and procedures for a well-rounded procurement policy, and tips on leveraging purchase agreements and purchasing groups to help lower your costs. I met with numerous vendors and suppliers regarding energy efficiency programs, electric vehicles, public works equipments, and other state programs. One of which is something before you tonight with the GEM vehicle, and like the cleaning equipment the mayor was talking about that we'll be bringing later on. And then honestly, it's mentioned the networking. It's really difficult to explain sometimes if you don't do it often, but networking with other town administrators and managers from around the state is very helpful for me. Just making those connections, you have the ability to say, hey, this is what's happening in our town, and they can say, yep, we did that too, and this is the problems we had, and learn from other mistakes, and learning from each other. So it was really great to meet with all those individuals.
So for Ward 3, the things that I took away from, well, one, I wanted to say thank you to all the residents who are allowing us to attend MML, because it definitely gives us an opportunity to network like what everyone else has said, but it also gives you an opportunity to better yourself and to educate yourself on how we can be better stewards of the residents. Some of the classes that I attended were the security best practices, and that correlated into understanding more about pen testing and backing up of our systems. So in the worst case scenario that something happens to our infrastructure, to our town hall, we do have the backups to ensure that we can continue to provide adequate services to all the residents. Another one that I attended was the basics of risk management. And the takeaway from that was we're all risk management. We're all in the business of understanding how do we mitigate risk to ensure the best quality of life for our residents. And then third, there was a discussion on the structure of government. So understanding the purpose of what the charter does and understanding the purpose of what our codes ordinance do. That was very insightful and very informative to help me as a new council member better serve Ward 3. As far as some of the expo networking, some of them pertain towards, we do have a lot of residents who have pets. I spoke with the Humane Society about disaster tips. So how do you prevent tragedy from preparing for disasters by having it planned just in case something were to happen to you or your pet? Another one was the Department of Natural Resources. So I know right now we're working with the Emporium, but they also have a plan to plant 5 million trees in Maryland. I spoke with the Code Enforcement and Zoning Officials Association, and they recommended that we work with our code enforcer to get them involved in that organization to better serve our residents. And then I'll close it up. One of the last things that I thought was very helpful, I see a lot of kids running around, and there is the Maryland Department of Health, and they have a Babies Born Healthy program. So it talks about the statistics of health risk for Black and brown women and providing them adequate resources to help ensure that they not only have a healthy baby, but they have a healthy mother and a healthy family. So I'll be sending out the summary of my information at a later date. Thank you.
Hello, Councilmember Hobbs. Did not attend the conference this year. I had the benefits last year. Overall, I think considering our budget deficit and also for personal reason, I think it was a good choice. And I think overall, we as a council need to be a better financial stewards of our taxpayers' monies and decide on the priorities, maybe alternate on who decides and goes to the summer conference or the fall conference, which is also an option. So with that in mind, maybe I will be attending a fall conference. Thank you.
Councilmember Brooks, can you email me all those notes? Because I asked all the council members to send me their notes in regards to this,
What email did you send that to?
to your email.
Was it the town? There's nothing in the town email.
Yeah, I asked everyone to send it over to me yesterday by 2, actually today by 2. Can
Was it-
you, okay, can you send it to me?
Sure, I can send
Okay,
you the
great,
notes.
thank you. Okay, so I'm going to continue with the mayor's report. So just going back to the retreat and our vision, and the facilitator of the retreat actually mentioned that we should always be looking back at this. So I'm sharing this and I'll read it quickly. So our vision is that Colmar Manor is a diverse community where neighbors know and support each other and work to create shared values. We are a sustainable community, so Colmar Manor's ongoing sustainability is supported by a holistic focus on the environmental, social, and economic factors. So Colmar Manor supports the preservation and enhancement of its natural and historic resources. Residents participate in a thriving and active community where they can age in place, and the town fosters economic stewardship through initiatives that support economic mobility. When it comes to effective governance and administration, Colmar Manor's governing body is engaged and committed to the community by actively pursuing solutions to promote efficiency and transparency. Town staff develop and deliver services that support the community and systems that ensure continuity and accountability. I also want to share that I've been meeting with council members one-on-one. I'm looking to do this either monthly or every other month, just so that I have an understanding of what their priorities are and how we can work together to push any ideas they have forward. I strongly believe in teamwork, and I think for the most part, a couple of these council members are very good at coming up with ideas and working with me on pushing some ideas forward. So Malik from Ward 1, some of his priorities are the arts, police relations, and building relations within the council. So some ideas that he had was coordinating workshops, talent shows, walking the wards, and he came up with this idea of neighborhood watch on the go. So teaming up with the chief and just walking throughout town, making ourselves available so that when people see us, they can ask us questions. And again, this is also an educational piece on town processes. He also is suggesting that once a month or every other month, we have some type of a team building activity. So Irina from Ward 2, you've spoken about economic development, communications, and recreation. So it's about building the business directory, continuing our networking with the town of Brentwood, improving our emails and text messaging with our community, and then get someone to help coordinate sports like tennis, and I put pickleball. Keith Brooks, Ward 2, his priorities are health, legal, and finance. And then Councilmember Melinda Mendoza, Ward 4, some of her ideas or some of her priorities included traffic, animal control, and recreation. And the ideas that she's had have been around street art, which is something that our town administrator is very, he's a proponent of to help ease traffic and speeding in our community, and speed signs, stop signs that have lights on them like they do in Hyattsville, and I think they might have them in Cottage City. I know that you also mentioned the dog park and then the splash park for kids. I wanted to thank everyone that came out, and we're having this again on Friday. So we've created a life-size map of the town of Colmar Manor. And we invited the community to come out and make their mark on the map. So come in and color in your house. But this was also a great opportunity to hear from people. Along our wall, we had some questions that we asked people, and we're keeping the responses and we're keeping those sheets of paper. But it's, again, just a way to either talk to us, complain, give us ideas, just meet your neighbors. And so I love these community building initiatives, and we even got some press related to this. When people hear this idea, they love it, and so that to me is a success. And so we'll be having it again this Friday, and then we'll be having it in August. And here, these are some pictures of the families that came out. Malik, this is a really beautiful picture of you with some kids, and I'm going to definitely make sure to share those with you. Uh, Friday, we've been doing it from like 6 to 9, but you can come anytime during that time. So at this particular, the first one, we had the University of Maryland students that are doing the whole air quality sensors in town, and they were speaking to residents. We also had the Baller Tykes registering kids to be in the program. So I'm hoping that we can get the animal control committee to come out and be a part of this one. And I think we might have the neighborhood design center come out. We're not sure yet, but this is an ongoing thing. And this is, it's when it's filled in, it's gonna, well, it's beautiful now as it is, but it's gonna be really cool. I'm not gonna share this stuff. This is your stuff. But some of the upcoming events that are coming up. So there's the Delegate Fennell Give Back Day, which I believe is the, let me stop sharing. I believe is the 5th of August. That's also the day that we've designated as Diana Fennell Day. So I'll make sure to post on Facebook, social media, and our website how to celebrate Diana Fennell Day. But it's her big event where she gives back to the community. So there's going to be a lot of surprises, a lot of book bags and food given away. It's just going to be a fun event. However, the night before, I don't know if you've heard of this artist called Beyonce. Beyonce is coming to FedEx Field that weekend. And so I thought, I cannot afford to go to the Beyonce concert. However, I can host a Beyonce dance party. So we will be hosting a Beyonce dance party on Friday, August 4th here in the Diana Fennell Hall. And it should be a really good time. But with all seriousness, some of the upcoming things that I'm looking to work on come September, because we're taking the month of August off, is the parking ordinance. So we've heard loud and clear from many, many residents about parking, especially in Ward 1. So I will be asking people to participate, different residents to participate on a parking ordinance committee, where we'll be looking at the parking ordinance and fixing it and figuring out how to improve parking in our community. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's a start. We'll also be addressing the street lighting. So I'm surprised that Mr. Rufus isn't here, but Mr. Rufus, I hear you. And so, and your ward member hears you. So we will be tackling street lighting as well. And what else do we have coming up? As far as work with the mayor and council, so I had mentioned in a previous meeting that we should be talking and discussing about how to improve either these meetings or what our norms should be. And so part of that is we keep on talking about Robert's rules and we don't necessarily have a handle on it, I feel like. So there is a parliamentarian that that I spoke to that can come in and sit with us in August. So I am looking at, oh gosh, I'll probably email you if you could kindly reply to the email and let me know if you're available to train with this parliamentarian. It'll probably be on a Tuesday night. So that's one, but I think we should also, aside from speaking with the parliamentarian, set up another meeting to discuss. I really like using the PowerPoint to kind of give my report, and I think maybe that's something that we can look into, but obviously any other ideas that you have to improve these meetings and improve how we report out are welcomed. And I think we should all work together to kind of look at that and then always look at the strategic plan that we created on our retreat. And then headshots. So we need some headshots. And so I'm wondering if either next week you're available, I'll email you as well, if you can please reply and let me know if you're available for headshots. This includes Mr. Baden, it includes Chief, it includes Greg. So headshots for everyone. So that's pretty much it on my end. I don't think I have anything else. So now I'll go ahead and just I'll turn it over to the council members' reports and concerns. Then we'll go back to Mr. Baden, and then we'll open it up to resident comments. So, council reports.
Councilmember Harding, Ward 1. I don't have much of a report. When we came back from MML, I was hit with some complaints. Uh, Someone asked me what was our update on Bates, if we were going to continue going forward with them, or if we were choosing other options. I didn't have a particular answer for them just as yet. I said I would get back to them as soon as possible. And this is just me announcing it here on record. But overall, as you said, we went to MML. It was a great experience. We came back looking to tread foot right in the direction of our said priorities, and I look forward to working with our council, as I said, inside of my wants by building through team building exercises or just generally conversing upon the topics that we want to handle. And I look forward to hearing from our residents because there's a lot of things happening and I've been seeing more activity as far as people walking up and down. So please don't be afraid to approach me. And that's my report.
Councilmember Hobbs, Ward 2. Wanted to thank our code enforcement officer for doing a great job for investigating the claims and complaints. I would welcome a report from him, as I said earlier, because I think he's doing a lot and he's doing a great job, but I would like for everyone else to see that as well. So I have received a few complaints regarding noise, going on into the night, on work days. It's really hard for people who work during the day or have a different alternative schedule. Or the people who are partying may have an alternative schedule to actually, they do not abide by the regular 9 to 5 job. But that disrupts everybody. So if there are any ways we can, again, enforce our noise ordinance or send out a notification other than just calling the non-emergency line, anything else that would be any other measures that we can take or think or brainstorm to do to make sure people are in compliance and that those neighbors who are next to them can have a good night's sleep. Also received another and like a complaint on not really a complaint, but in an inquiry on the trucks that are parked on Mr. Lusk's property. I know we had a discussion last year, but I'm sorry, last session in June. But they have been parked there for about, I would say 7 maybe weeks or 8 weeks now. And it would be interesting to know, that's not a report, but it's mostly like more of an inquiry to our town, to the town administrator of what's the, if we know of any future for those trucks that are parked there. Thank you.
Ward 3, Councilmember Keith Brooks. So for events for Ward 3, I wanted to thank the chief and the rest of the staff for putting on a great fireworks show. So definitely appreciate that. It seems like a lot of people had a great time. I wanted to thank the chief as well as Freddie for attending the code enforcement meet and greet. It was very informative. The residents seemed like they received a lot of good information and they know who to contact regarding certain incidents. Also, regarding the items of health, finance, and legal, we did more of a health of mind tech session, and we're looking to parlay that into the seniors group and starting to have a tech session for seniors once a month. Councilmember Hobbs commented on the trucks, the food trucks that's Compare Foods. I remember the representative, they said that they would look into it. So if we could give them some motivation to identify a resolution to that, that would be greatly appreciated by the residents, because there's also some carts that are turned over in the back corner as well. The last conversation we were to Councilmember Harding had mentioned the Bates, and it was informed that I should hold off on contacting Bates. Has just want to know if that conversation has been had yet so that I can reach out to Bates, and that's directed to the mayor. And then as far as nudes, one of the things that we're working with, or one of the residents wants to do, is a block party for Ward 3. So I'll be following up with the chief and the town administrator to figure out how we can get that situated to further stimulate community involvement. And then lastly, it would be nice, since this is the beginning of our fiscal year 2024, to have a structure agenda so that the town and council can see what is the strategic plan for not only the police department, but also the public works. So that could be a month one, we do a assessment and planning. So do a comprehensive assessment of the current state of code enforcement. Month two could be strengthening code enforcement by launching a public awareness campaign to educate residents, going all the way through month 12. So that would give us a broad view of what we can expect for the year, and then give residents the opportunity to engage more with both of those entities. Towards the end, it looks like the town administrator has put in some comments regarding the charter review, so that's good. So that's coming up. Looks like with the end of June, we are closing out the fiscal year 2023. So we'll be looking for the finalized reports from the financials. And then a couple of residents have come up asking about mosquito control. And at a Meadows Day the other day, I was able to talk to a representative from Maryland Department of Agriculture, and there are mosquito control programs, as well as there is a device that is non-toxic called a BG GAT2 mosquito trap. And it comes in pairs of 2 for $85 that could possibly be a alternative to spraying. So those are some of the items for Ward 3. Thank you.
So I have some questions because you asked about Bates. So what do you mean that you were told to hold off on talking to Bates?
So in the last conversation that we had, I said I was going to reach out to our Public Works and Bates and set up a meeting to figure out how do we build a relationship better. And I was informed to hold off because you were going to have a conversation with them.
So we're in the middle of renegotiating our contract with them.
Okay,
So we mentioned that at that meeting.
we
And
did.
we've been talking about that for a while now, that we're renegotiating our contract with Bates. So I agree. I think that we need to improve our relationship with them. However, right now, because we're in the middle of negotiations, it's a little sensitive to be talking to them. As soon as we all, as the mayor and council, decide on whether we're going to continue with Bates, gates are open.
So who's currently handling our waste management? All right, so if they're still continuing to handle it, if we're in conversations with a contract or not, I feel that it doesn't hurt to develop a relationship to where maybe we could do a once a month, residents come out, wave at the trash, I guess, representatives, like what Dan has said previous year, that in his neighborhood, the kids come out, it gives a different aura, just trying to figure out different ways that we can build that relationship.
And I'm all for that. I agree with you. I'm mentioning that we're in negotiations with them. They're negotiating hard with us. And so for me, I'd like to get this resolved before we ask them for anything.
There's no ask. It's just a, hey, we would like to do something nice for you. Maybe we bring water out because it's been really hot this summer. Things like that to build relationship.
And
That's
I
it.
think that's a great idea. I think that's nice. What you're making it sound is I want to have a conversation with Bates.
So now I'm clarifying. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Also, in regards to the Ward 3 events that you've been having, I just want to make clear to all the council members that you don't only work for your ward, you work for the entire town of Colmar Manor. And I think that we need to work as a team. So if you're having events and you don't invite the rest of the council, you don't invite the mayor, and I kind of find out about it last minute, for me, I'm wondering what's going on. Like, are we working as a team together? Or is it Keith only represents Ward 3, Irina only represents Ward 2, Malik only represents Ward 1, Melinda only represents Ward 4. So I've been trying for months now, and I want to make it clear to all the residents too. I've been trying for months now to strengthen our council and to build relationships with our council. And so I want to make it clear that all of these council members don't just work for your ward. They work for the entire town of Colmar Manor.
So other individuals were welcome to come to the meet and greet.
I didn't know about it. And you didn't bring it up at this meeting. You didn't bring it up at any of the meetings, actually. So I was saddened to hear that no one else was invited and that it was a Ward 3 event. So you're invited to any of the events that I host.
Yeah, that's fine, as the mayor.
I think, and in regards to block parties, I recently attended the block party that council member Ed Aruba, is that how you pronounce his last? Ed Haba in Hyattsville. Eduardo Haba hosted in Hyattsville, and it was a beautiful event. And so I believe not just in Ward 3, I think throughout our community, we should be hosting block parties. And so I also got some really good pamphlet that Hyattsville shared in regards to how to be a good neighbor. And that's one of the projects that I'll also be working on. But I am going to urge the other council members as well, or maybe we can all figure this out together. These events that we host where we bring people together really help. It helps not only because it gets people out to meet their neighbors, but it helps to improve relations with you. And it helps us listen to people when they're not able to come to these meetings. So if you're interested in hosting a block party, I think we should figure it out. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think we're for Europe with your council report.
I don't really have a ward report, but I just wanted to say congratulations to Mike Gorham on his retirement from Colmar Manor as Public Works for over 45 years of service. We had a breakfast for him on Wednesday, and it was bittersweet. I know that he has to move on. I mean, 45 years of service is a lot. I got emotional because since I've been in Colmar Manor, I've only known Mike Gorham because he's been the one here. And when he said, "Who's going to tell your little ass to get out the street?" I teared up. So congratulations, Mike Gorham, on your retirement. Thank you.
Mayor. We talked about walking with the chief, and I know Councilmember Harding did that. I'm scheduled to do one tomorrow, but I talked to the chief briefly, and he said there may be a different approach that you would like to take this on, like a table discuss, yeah.
We had done, well, a meeting or two ago, we spoke and we were going to go with the council member on some specific nights and walk the community in each ward. That's happened once with Councilman Harding, and that was shortened because of the rain. And I think since then, we've kind of talked about setting up a place certain in a ward and having people come out. And it may be more effective. I found that with walking with Council Member Harding, we did speak with a number of residents, and I thought it was a worthwhile effort. But if they had a question, we'd have to get back with them on that. Or if, there's, when we were talking about the upcoming events, we could, at a table, we could present more information and be readily available as opposed to saying, we'll get back with you, or I'll drop that off later kind of thing.
So the question is, do you still want us to do that, or do you have a different approach regarding this issue?
Yeah, I think that we should still do it. I think what Chief is suggesting is that instead of like walking or door knocking, that we set up a table somewhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, we do have, I think, a lot of these like information session, and we don't have a good turnout, to be honest. So I think it's more efficient for us to talk to our residents and door knock. I know we may not be able to cover many cover many residents, and it's hot tomorrow. So I don't know if that's another consideration. We want to reschedule it. I would, or yeah. what do
The
you
the
think?
door knocking is very beneficial when you have upcoming events, as you can take, we have National Night Out next month. You
Mhm.
have the MAP event on Friday and Beyonce on the 4th, that, all that. So you can take that information as well and hand it out. So they both
Okay.
have their benefits.
Okay, so maybe we'll keep that in mind. And our national night out, would it be the first Tuesday of August, which is the first? Have we marked our calendar for that event? Yes? Okay.
Yes, definitely the Tuesday, August 1st, from 6 PM to 8:30, and you'll be
Mhm.
seeing more of that soon.
Okay, well, thank you. So let's postpone maybe let's postpone the event, like the tomorrow's event, because of I think it's extreme heat. But let's keep in mind the national night out. And so like if we door knock, we also inform residents of the upcoming events and other things, among other things. Thank you.
Okay. And so, yeah, just to piggyback off of what Councilmember Mendoza mentioned, if you all had not heard, Mike Gorham retired last week. And although I worked with him a very short time, it made me very sad. He devoted his life to this town. He's been here for 40, he was here for 45 plus years. And I mentioned this at the breakfast. We had a beautiful breakfast where previous mayors came and Delegate Fennell came. And Mike was a constant. And previous council members too, yeah. So he was a constant, mayor after mayor, council after council. He was here and he held the fort down. He is having some family issues, and so we want to wish him the best and just thank him for his service. And that's just to say, the town administrator will talk about this later, but there is a vacancy. And so, as he's said before, please bear with us as we're going through this transition. Yeah. Yeah, so now we're gonna go back to Mr. Baden. So there were some questions in regards to the budget. And then, I don't know, do you want to talk about Bates now, or do we talk about that later, or?
Bates is scheduled for the closed session.
Councilmember Brooks had some questions for you.
So on the budget or the treasurer's report, originally for fiscal year 2023, we had budgeted for 3.6 mil on the gross profit. And then we readjusted that for estimate of 2.6. And right now on the one that was provided with the packet, we're at 2.3. Go ahead. That seems like a big delta, even from the estimate of 2.695 that we were previously estimating for fiscal year 2023.
There's a few factors that are included in there when you look at the, you're looking at the actual in the first column versus the budget in the second column. So, part of that revenue is associated with ARPA and part of it is unreserved. So, those are showing as budgeted items and technically, they have been received, like the ARPA funds have been received in this year and the carryover has been received, but you don't recognize it until you expend it under governmental accounting, because that is looked at as a grant. So, until it is spent, that if you're looking at account 5654, the 569,938, it's showing a zero in the year to date, and then, that amount budgeted. The amount that we have spent technically should show in that column, so that could be adjusted partially. And then the unreserved fund balance, that 733,000 also can show in the first column. That's the reserves from prior years. So that is, the revenue that we realized before the year even started. So, those amounts could be adjusted on the report to reflect that. And if you include that in there, that's increasing the 2.3 by about 1.2 million and brings you closer to that 3.6 million.
Okay, so just a lack of understanding of how we were doing the accounting part.
Yep.
Okay. And then just a question. I was looking at the line item 5083, community garden. And in March, we had that at 4,821. And then at the end of the year, we came down to 433.7. Is that just because we were reimbursed by the garden?
I'd have to look in detail, but I believe when I was looking at that account, there were some expenditures that were misclassed and they were recoded to the
Gotcha.
proper, excuse me, proper accounts.
So typically in the past, how do council members kind of, I guess, analyze the report to know, well, what things have been adjusted versus, what things are kind of stay consistent?
Things usually don't get adjusted that often unless, something is brought to my attention or I recognize, in the analyzing the account. So from time to time, I'll go through all the accounts and look at the detail that is included in each of those accounts. And, if something has been misclassified or coded incorrectly, then I will, make the correction. So I wouldn't say it happens that often, but I do that during the year, and then at the end of the year when I'm preparing the financials for the audit, I go through every single account and look at what has been costed into those accounts one last time. After I've made all my adjusting entries and everything at year end, I'll go through every single account that we have and look at the detail, make sure that I feel it's properly coded.
Okay, perfect. And with the end of the fiscal year 2023, when will we have the completed?
So I do most of the adjusting entries in July and August
July and August.
because under municipal accounting, any revenues that have been earned through June 30th that you receive in the subsequent 2 months after the fiscal year, which would be July and August, they get accrued back to June 30th. And any expenditures that were incurred, even if they weren't paid at June 30th, like we might not get invoiced until July or
Nice.
August, those expenditures actually go back as well. So I'm usually make those entries July, August. The auditors come in the first Wednesday after Labor Day to do their field work. They do some preliminary field work as well. Like the auditors just sent me a correspondence last week asking for the preliminary information they need, which are signed confirmations that they send out to our major revenue customers, like the state and the county. So I signed an authorization where they could send out and ask them to verify directly to the auditors how much income tax did they pay the town, how much highway users revenue did the state pay the town, how much income taxes did the county pay the town. So all those notices I'm signing this week, they'll go back to the auditor. They send them directly to those agencies who respond directly to the auditor so that there is a outside source verifying what I'm putting in the financials.
Gotcha.
So all that type of work is happening now. And then during July and August, I'm doing those adjusting entries that are needed at year end to bring the financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting standards. So they come in first Wednesday after Labor Day, and then the final report goes to the state. It's due to the state by October 31st of each year.
October 31st. Okay, so after October, we should get a.
Yep, and then I usually, and during that time, I will come back to the council and usually ask for a budget adjustment, so that, as you look at these reports, a lot of the items, the actual expenditures are close to budget, or they may be a little over in some cases, and technically that shouldn't happen, and we should catch that during the year. Our charter says that revenue or the expenditures should not be expended at greater than the budget. So we try to do those budget adjustments during the year. And so at the end of the year, those are brought back to the council and a cumulative adjustment is made for anything that's over budget that you all concur with, so that when the financial statements go out, they are in compliance with what the charter requires. So we call it a cleaning up adjustment. Technically, we should, be more detailed and do it, during the year, but with as tight a budget as we have, sometimes that's hard to do and some accounts do go over, or we might get a grant during the year that the council hasn't approved and put into the budget. So, additional revenue sources and things like that need to be budgeted for as well. So you'll see that probably in August. Well, we're not meeting in August, are we? So I guess September, the first meeting in September, we'll do that. So that's pretty much the process. I know it's your first time going through it, but if you have any questions, any more detailed, let me know and I could help walk you through it.
Will do. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
So I have some follow-up questions in regards to the budget. So I was talking to a couple of other elected officials during MML and talking about our budgeting process. And they mentioned as soon as the budget is passed, some towns start working on their budget for the next year immediately. And so I'm wondering, I know that we're not meeting in August, and part of the reason for that is obviously because it's the summer, but I wanted to create space for mayor and council to figure out how we work together and understand more of our processes. Would you be amenable to sitting down with us and talking budget stuffs? And
Sure.
so that's one request I have. The second request that I have is, can I get from you an itemized list of the expenditures for each event that we have? I want to be able to share this with the committee so that they can start their whole budgeting process and thinking through like what they need to think of for the following year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think for fiscal year 24, the year that we just started, we've budgeted individually for the different events that are happening. For fiscal year 23, most of the events that have taken place, we've just classified under the rec council and not to individual line items. So I can give you a detail of what is in there, but as to, from who it's paid to and the brief description you get on that report, you could probably do your own calculation as to what it was for. I think in fiscal year 24, because we designated certain committees that will be doing some of those events themselves, it'll be a little easier to see and break out for fiscal year 24.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, at least with the Recreation Committee, I've been working with Amelia to track that already. So we have a spreadsheet created and she comes in and goes over what the expenses were, because it could be an issue where they buy supplies at one store and it's cheap, but it's for 3 different events. And so it's going to be difficult, as Dan pointed out, when you see that receipt, it could just be tablecloths, but they're 3 different colored tablecloths for 3 different events. So it's really hard to divide out going backwards, but going forward, we're doing that now.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Baden? Anything else? Oh yeah, let's talk about that. So go ahead and start the discussion.
So our code, the code instructs us to designate check signers and check auditors, and we've had this discussion for a number of times. Yes, thank you. I think my braces are off now, so it's very unusual to speak without them. That's the reason why too. No, so but I feel like I'm making the swooshing sounds right now, so I don't know if I. So, so we do have designated check signers. That is Mr. Harding and Ms. Mendoza. I have been designated as a check auditor. We, since the election and since Mr. Keith Brooks, Councilmember Brooks came, joined our council, he was not designated as a check signer or auditor. So I don't know if we need to have this discussion too again, or if those people who are check signers would like to stay check signers, if you would like to try a different role to be a check auditor for our receipts for checking and savings accounts. So you could see where the money goes. And just to give you an update, so I have not been doing this, I've not been auditing this past a few months because I need a second person. So I know things were piling up and things are piling up on my shelf, but I think we need to be doing it together with the second person. So I believe Mayor also has a recommendation, maybe a designation, or whatever, yes, whichever way you'd like to approach that.
So first I'll appoint Keith Brooks to be an auditor, and then Mr. Baden, do you want to address like the past couple of months and how like what the situation is now because of we haven't had like an additional auditor?
I reconcile the bank statement anyway. The auditors receive the bank statements unopened, or they're supposed to. Sometimes the front office with the change of staff doesn't realize that until we make them aware of it. So sometimes they might be unopened or might be open. But I have the ability to actually pull the bank statements offline from online. And so I'm able to do my job and reconcile the bank statement, the cash accounts myself. It's still good to have the audit checkpoint, because that's really checking, what I'm doing and what the town's spending. So, as far as operation of town, nothing's being held up from that other than you all checking my work, what's being spent. So, would be good to have that other person designated so that we get back into the process of doing that.
Okay, so I'm assigning Keith Brooks.
So do we have any documentation on, outside of the charter, of the actual process for the auditor?
No, I mean, there's a sheet. If it's going to be you and Councilmember Hobbs, she's been pretty familiar with the process, and maybe the first couple times you all get together. And if she's not available, I'll be more than happy to sit down and go through the process as well. But
That works.
she's been
I'll
doing
just,
it, she's
I'll go
been
with
doing it
Councilmember
pretty
Hobbs.
well, and could probably tell you the pros and cons that she finds when she's going through it, other than me guessing. So.
I just want to say that, Ed, that when I sat down with Mr. Baden, it was really helpful for me to go over those expenditures in the account, because a lot of them are very repetitive. And like once I see like Konica Minolta, like I know that's the printer or the copier. And so I would be happy to show Councilmember Brooks how to do to complete the sheet, which is also, by the way, outdated, very outdated, and is missing or lacking some information. So it will be good to update it. But also I think it would be helpful for Councilmember Brooks to sit down with Mr. Baden and just to go over these like expenses and questions. It's like, why are we paying? Remember, I had a question, why are we paying some fee to Las Vegas? Because like there was a vending machine, I believe that.
Refund a personal property tax, I think
Yeah.
that was to
Yes.
someone who got a credit.
Yes, somebody who was registered in Vegas. So there was some questions that I like, yeah, it wasn't you. Were you in Vegas last time? No. So that's what I'm saying. So yes, I will be happy to help, but also I think it'll be great for him to sit down to go over like every little charge that there is.
Yeah, maybe after, a couple statement cycles and you start seeing what's there, that'll raise some questions for you, and then we get together and talk about them.
Mhm.
If
Thank
that would help.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baden. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to, we have to, thank you. This is why we have a town administrator. Great, so actually we have to approve the consent agenda. So I would like to request a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Councilmember Harder, I'll make the motion as stated.
Councilmember Hobbs seconded.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, so now I'd like to open it to resident comments. So if there's anyone present, just come up to the microphone, your name and where you live. Same with Zoom, just raise your hand and we'll make sure to make space for you to speak.
Good evening. My name is Anna Palma. I live on Monroe Street. I don't know if I had met you before, but you are the administrator.
Greg is the administrator. I'm the clerk treasurer.
You're the clerk treasurer, the administrator. Why don't you? The new councils. Unfortunately, you know, I was out of town when the election took place, so I voted on my envelope. So, but my war wasn't being, you know, opposed or whatever. So I got the council member here. I'm very glad to see young blood on these political positions. To tell you the truth, I am very not political. I'm very straightforward and I'm very, very much an elephant stepping on everybody's when I speak and a lot of the time when I act. Tonight, I'm very sad to see that even though when you know you run in an election, there's a lot of people telling you run and I support you and all this kind of stuff. But when it comes to these meetings, you know, everybody is gone. Everybody has their own life. Everybody have their own schedule. And when you really need us here to support, you know, your thought, your ideas, we are pretty much hiding, you know, on our ridiculous life. But when we want you to be in these seats, you know, we push you and push you. So thank you for being brave. I'm not that brave. Want to thank you for being so active on keeping the town ahead, you know, above water. I know that economic situation nationally is not the best, but if I don't understand, I see that I don't see no reds over here. So I gotta read it easily to see if I see that we are sinking. But I'm glad that nobody's taking money away from the town, that the money that is for the town is gonna be spent in the town and for the people, even though, you know, we are absentees. The idea of the chief, I do applaud that, chief. Thank you. I do know this town has become, I don't know, a high percentage of Spanish, I believe, but we are so reluctant to be seen and to be heard or whatever that we need that push that you're looking the councils to do on knocking doors and letting people and meet people. Most of us are shy because we don't speak the language, or we are shy because we are coming from countries that politicians are the worst and we don't trust, you know, that this is something that goes beyond you guys. But thank you for the good job, you know, that you're doing in the town. Welcome to the new ones. And you're being brave to be here this long. But yeah, I would like you to do that, you know, knock doors. There is a lot of people that are new. They don't even know how to relate to be proactive or to be part of it or whatever. So you being as bilingual, or if you can push people like me that are bilingual to help you, you know, to go out there and help you communicate to people and to think, you know, that out of the box, that this is convenience, and to push our young people to be proactive on this because this is their country. This is gonna be their place and they have to be involved somehow. But our kids tends to copy us. We are reluctant to come, they don't come. So it's not working in our favor. So thank you, Chief, for pushing that. And I expect, the councils, even though it's hot, sweaty, it can be rainy, pouring, whatever, that you keep that. I am on Word 4. You need a translator, let me know. If I try to make it, if it's before 9:30 p.m., I'll be there. If after 9:30, don't call me, okay? That's my whole thing, all right? But I was part of your politicals long time, and I am trying not to be that involved, but somehow, I gotta come. But keep the good work. And I think the town has my information, how to get in contact with me in case you need something. Unfortunately, my young is not gonna be, part of it for a while. But hopefully when she comes back, we try to push her to be, being part of the community and that the community goes better. And there are residents that are staying here, one way or another, renting, not renting, owning or not owning, be part of the decision-making that you guys are trying to do the best for us. Okay? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. The good work.
So I want to say thank you to you and to your daughter for being a part of the Animal Welfare Committee. And I think also I push people all the time, be active, because there are things that we've worked hard for that are now being discussed to take away. And
Yeah.
one of that is interpretation for the town. So interpretation, live interpretation, in the moment interpretation is
Yeah.
critical.
Yes, it is.
So I've made clear to people, we've worked hard for things. Don't let someone or some people take that away.
Unfortunately, the people that wants to do that, are people that do not care for whoever does not speak the language because the mentality is you are here, you speak what I speak. Unfortunately, not everything works like that. And we do need interpretations. We do need that because if we are majority Spanish, the adults on those households does not speak the language. And if they do, they speak a broken English to defend themselves, to go by the day or by the work, but not to understand a meeting as long as this one could be an explanation, as long as you needed to have, they won't understand it. And their kids, being a translator is not easy. Their kids do their best to translate for their parents, but they get sick and tired of being their parents' voice, and they try to be neutral. They ended up being even mad to their parents to this, because they don't want to be their voice. But unfortunately, that's what's going on. That's reality, and it's not going away, unless you close the borders, and the city borders, and don't let Spanish come in, and you just get selective on whoever buys property in Colmar Manor.
Yeah.
But the translation, the interpretation, and anything that needs to do with communication, just not Spanish, because, you had Filipinos, you have Chinese, you have, people Jamaican. We don't speak the same language. Some of us speak a broken English, but, we can get by, but it's not what it needs to when we are in relation to this kind of situation.
So thank you. I'm gonna tap you later to register people to vote.
Okay.
So that's an ongoing thing for me. Everyone who approaches me knows that one of the first things I ask you is, are you registered to vote? Keep an eye on what's happening with the council and with the mayor.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Mr. Rufus had asked about having a class for English speakers to learn Spanish. Have we investigated that further?
It's on my list.
Hmm.
No, on my list. It
On the
doesn't
list.
happen overnight.
Okay.
Any other resident comments? Sara?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Sara Campos y vivo en la 39 TH Avenida. Estoy de acuerdo con lo que dice la señora, no sé el nombre de ella, pero es muy importante para nosotros los hispanos que tengamos interpretación. Y para mí, yo quisiera que en el futuro los concejales pudieran ser bilingües también, que pudieran hablar más de un idioma, el inglés. Como dice ella, vemos filipinos, habemos hispanos y de toda raza. Y no se va a poder cambiar, como dice ella, si no se cierra la frontera. Siempre va a haber gente de que hablan diferentes idiomas. Y yo quisiera que en el futuro, pues, los concejales pudieran ser bilingües, pudieran hablar español, porque habemos muchas personas que somos hispanas también acá. Entonces, para mí eso es muy importante y creo que para toda la comunidad. También hay muchos problemas que hay aquí en la comunidad. Hay un grupo de WhatsApp en el chat que muchas personas ponen las quejas, pero no se les hace llegar a los concejales porque no están en el grupo. Y todas las personas no vienen a la reunión, como dice la señora, no participan porque no saben hablar inglés. La interpretación está en el video, pero no en la persona, aquí personalmente. Y muchas personas no tienen tiempo, como dice ella, pero también viven acá. O sea, solo porque no se presentan a las reuniones, yo no les veo por qué no tomarlas en cuenta. También viven en nuestro pueblo. Pues yo quisiera que tomaran en cuenta a todos. Y nada, es eso. Muchas gracias. Están haciendo buen trabajo y queremos que haya más apoyo para nosotros los hispanos y a los concejales si quisieran estar en un grupo de chat para que se den cuenta de las quejas que pasan acá en el pueblo para que puedan arreglar lo que está pasando. Si quisieran inscribirse en un chat, como le digo, las personas no tienen tiempo para venir a las reuniones. A veces trabajan porque a las mujeres que yo conozco no vinieron porque están trabajando. Y pues no pueden presentar lo que ellos necesitan. Entonces a mí me gustaría ver eso, que se involucraran más los concejales, porque yo creo que ni los conocen, porque no se ven en ninguna parte. El único es Melik y Miss Melinda. Los demás, Irina y el nuevo, por ningún lado, y al nuevo, a él, es que lo vemos en los eventos, al policía, y a los demás, ni se aparecen, solo aquí en la alcaldía, pero ¿quién los ve? Solo ustedes mismos. El pueblo no los ve, no los conoce. Yo quisiera que en el futuro se dieran a conocer y que pongan atención a la comunidad.
No se vayan. Lo que yo le quiero decir a usted, Sara, es que yo estoy muy orgullosa de usted como persona. Y cuando usted habla de personas que deberían ser bilingües y ser parte del concejal, esa es usted. No se olvide que yo siempre le he dicho a usted, algún día usted debería ser alcaldesa de este pueblo. Usted luchó muy duro por el derecho de votar en el pueblo de Colmar Manor, para los que no son ciudadanos. Y eso es muy importante. Abrió puertas para todos nosotros, para que así nos tengan en cuenta. Y eso fue por usted. Entonces le quiero agradecer por su dedicación, por tomar tiempo para venir a estas reuniones. Yo sé que hay veces que usted no pudo cocinar para su esposo, pero usted y su esposo han sido activos en el pueblo y le quiero dar las gracias de mi corazón.
De nada, gracias.
Voy a interpretar lo que usted dijo, okay? So I'm going to interpret what Sara Campos just said. She said, I agree. It's very important that we have interpretation in our meetings. I wish that some of the council people were bilingual. She said, for us, it's important to be able to speak in our language. Even though many of them are learning English, they struggle. And so she feels that sometimes they're left to the side and they're not paid attention to because they're not English speakers. She's saying that we have a WhatsApp group, which we do, a WhatsApp group for Spanish speakers. So she said, well, maybe we should establish a WhatsApp group for council members so that they can see what's going on and they can see all the complaints and what's happening in the town. She said, right now, the interpretation is only via Zoom. It's not in person. It's not here. So you have to listen to a video in order for interpretation to take place. She said, people want to come to these meetings, but a lot of the times they have to work and they're unable to attend. But just because they don't show up doesn't mean that they're not interested or they don't want to be involved. And interpretation is critical to their involvement. She said that, you know, I see certain council members in the community all the time. She said, I see Malik, I see Melinda, I see the town administrator, I see the chief, but I don't see other council members. So she said, why? Like, you should be coming out into the community and speaking to us. So then what I told her was that I am very proud of her. I think you've seen Sara quite a couple times, right? So Sara was someone that I knocked on their door when I wasn't even thinking about running. This was when I was advocating for non-citizen voting. And I said, hey, the state of Maryland allows non-citizen voting, and we have the opportunity to have that here in Colmar Manor. And she said, I'm gonna help. And she's knocked on doors, she's collected signatures. So we are agents of change because that woman there is empowered. And she comes out and she speaks when she has to. And so I told her, you can say that you want a bilingual council member. I say that you can be the mayor of this town one day. So I'm very proud of her. And if it wasn't for her, a lot of things wouldn't have happened in this town. So thank you.
Muchas gracias. Pasen buenas noches.
Could I
So
give
one
a-
of the other things that I picked up at MML, there's a organization called Convey 911, and they enable public safety, law enforcement, public sector to communicate in any language over text, video, and voice. And that was the, I feel that if we're looking at a budget and we are at a deficit, it is imperative upon us as elected officials to look at other ways to reach people. So if we have residents who are working and it's only through Zoom, then having other alternatives is always an option. I feel that if we only go through one avenue and we do not constantly reevaluate and say, is this helping? Is it reaching the intended audience? Are they having benefit from it? Yes, no, could this be improved? Why do anything if you're only going to take the status quo?
Doug?
Good evening. I'm Doug Bowles. I live on 41st Avenue. I have a hard time hearing you guys in English. So because you don't speak onto your microphones very often. And so I'm straining a lot of this, and I speak English. So I would suggest that maybe if you want to spend some money on some headsets, because then you wouldn't have the opportunity, or Mr. Baden, right? Or lean into each other for a private conversation, which you don't intend to move away from your microphone, but you do. And then that makes your audience member feel like you're having a private conversation that's exclusive. So in addition to the headsets, perhaps the town could consider investing into a situation, and I know this is probably pricey, but a multilingual headset situation such as the UN has, so that no one has to come into the room and be the outsider. Everyone can hear, either in English or Spanish or ASL or Amharic or whatever languages are represented in the town. If we want to be fair, include everybody. Inclusivity is all, not one, not the other, no fights, all people. But please put your mic like this, I'm begging you. So that's, that's one thing.
Sorry, I've never heard of this. UN has lots of interpreters sitting behind in the booth interpreting. So I'm not sure what
So-
multilingual headsets you're referring
So
to.
do we need then to do a live English to Spanish and a live Spanish to English interpreter, since that would be maybe the fix? I mean, do we need to have two people?
So we actually have interpretation equipment. So we have the headsets.
Good Lord.
I think we purchased them when last year, or whatever. I agree that we have to look at all ways to figure out how to save money and whatever. But I'm not okay with saying that we need to defund interpretation. And I just want to make sure that people know and are paying attention. We had a budget conversation and certain ideas were brought up. Pay attention. But yeah, so we have the interpretation equipment. I'm not sure what the cost is associated with having someone here. I think we can look into it. And I think when someone comes and says, I need interpretation in Amharic, or I need interpretation in Tagalog or Chinese, I think that we need to take that seriously. We used to have ASL interpretation. We had it for a couple of the meetings, but I think that we need to, whoever comes and shows up and says, I need this, we need to make it available to them. And there is a cost associated with it. And for me, I'm having one-on-ones with council members. And you know this because you were a council member. And there are some council members that will work with me and will give me ideas and we will work towards solutions. There are others that don't. And that to me is a problem. So.
Okay. So as a citizen of the town, a resident of the town, my concern tonight is that within the last month and a half, there was a body found on Bladensburg Road. There was release of gunfire on my street on 41st Avenue. There was a stabbing. These have all happened in pretty close order. We know that crime is increasing in the city of DC, and we know that Baltimore is readdressing how it's approaching crime in its city, has recently released an article about it. So as a resident, I'm becoming a little, I don't feel 100% safe. And I just would like to hear if the town has any sort of plan to address the potential uptick in crime, particularly violent crime, moving forward. And then the other thing that's troubling me as a resident is for some reason, my driveway wants people like to park in front of it. It's continuing and it blocks me from leaving my home, which is a safety issue. It's also a convenience issue. It can keep me from going to work. It's been witnessed by my council member, but it's also been witnessed by neighbors. The yellow curb next to my driveway is frequently, almost perpetually parked in recently. Sometimes it's just for 20 minutes, sometimes it's for an hour, sometimes it's for 3 or 4 hours. And I've witnessed our police drive by multiple times, and to my knowledge, no one has been towed or ticketed. And it's becoming quite common for the rear of one car and the front of another car to impinge on the front of my driveway. So for me to get out of the driveway, I have to drive directly back, which puts me up on the curb. And then I have to negotiate out, which is potentially damaging for my vehicle. And I also can't see, the sight line's not good, so I can't tell if somebody's coming up and down the street. One of those vehicles is a white Mercedes. It likes to live there. But there's one with DC tags that likes to live there, and there are various other ones that like to come to park there. And currently in front of my house, there's a disabled vehicle with a flat tire. It's been there for 10 days at least. I would just like some attention brought to that issue if possible. And I thank you. I appreciate it.
So I have a question. Have you called in the car and the car that is flat, that has a flat tire and the other issues? Have you called those in?
Not yet, because I was trying not to be that neighbor that everybody hates. So I've been trying to be chill about it. But I think after 10 days, I think it's time to say something. So I wanted to make sure that I did say it to you guys. And I think that we've talked about parking being an issue in the town. So I brought it up because we just mentioned that it's an issue in the town. And I can do that. I have all the photographs necessary. So I can follow this up tomorrow with an email to the mayor and council chief.
Can you, I think something that that I have encountered is people will tell me, for example, we had someone say, I call the police station all the time and no one picks up. And we asked, what number are you calling? And that person was calling a number that was out of operation for years. And we've shared the number, like what number people should be calling. So I think part of it is if there are issues, call the town hall, call the non-emergency line. We're not mind readers. We don't know what's going on unless you call and report it.
sometimes, Mayor, and this was voiced to me before I was ever on the council. It was voiced to me while I'm on the council, and I'm now experiencing it. It's a little bit of fear that if you're identified as the complainer, there can be retribution. There has been retribution in the town in the past. So there's a little unwillingness to be identified. And the town leaks like a sieve. So information gets out. It's not hard to figure out who did the complaining. So you hope that when a car sits in a yellow zone for 3 or 4 hours, that your police will see it and do something about it. And you don't complain because you also know whose car that is. And you don't really want that person doing something to you or your property. So that's behind some of it as well. And with the increased violence in town, it's a little scary sometimes to speak up, to be quite honest with you. It is.
I
So
think
there's-
if you have fear of that, then I think you should speak to someone that you trust that's in the office. Or maybe we create some type of an anonymous, like, I don't know, like email system, or I don't know if that's possible, but that could be a way to deal with it. We've also been, because there are a lot of issues in regards to parking and people fighting over parking. We're looking at the Conflict Resolution Center of Prince George's County, I think it is. So that's another avenue. If you're interested in being a part of that, that would be great. But I don't think that any of that should stop people from calling in and saying, hey, this is happening. Because again, like, we need to hear from you. We need to hear from you. I'm not gonna go around saying, this person complained about that. I'm just gonna report it to the chief. Chief knows. I don't ask him about certain things in town because it's not necessarily my business. It's not my business. especially if
Mónica,
there's an
¿puedo
ongoing
decir algo?
investigation. I trust in our police department. I have trust in them. But I'm urging everyone, if you see something, call it in. If you have fear, we'll figure out a way to kind of address that issue. Talk to someone that you trust in the office.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you recall, but a little over 2 years ago, there were 5 gunshots expended right in front of my house. So I don't know what's going on 41st Avenue, but there's a lot of gunplay on 41st Avenue. So it's to the point now where I'm scared of gunshots. And, in past years when I would say, the fireworks are going on really late and people would say, what are you worried about? And the police would explain, fireworks you can identify because they're going pop, 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 and a gunshot goes pow, pow, pow. But now fireworks are going off that go pow, one-shot fireworks. And you sit in your house and you're thinking, there was a shooting down the street the other day. Is that a firework? Is that a gun? There have been guns shot off during firework displays here. I'm becoming concerned. I'm very careful now when I leave my house. And I am careful to make complaint because things have happened. But I came up here today to screw up my courage and say it. My mouth is dry right now. I'm nervous because I feel like I'm on this camera, complaining. But I did it because I care about my safety and my town. But crime is on the uptick all around us and around the country. So I hope that the mayor and council will consider a discussion about how to address that and moving forward. I like the idea of the walking around town. I think it's a great idea. Knock on doors, see how we're doing. Love that. The roving neighborhood watch,
That was Malik's idea.
beautiful. Yeah, I know Miss Blue said they used to do it in past, but it stopped because some of them got picked on. But I'm glad you're re-upping it. So anyway, thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that wasn't complaining. That was educating us. So thank you.
Sunny, do you want to go ahead? So Sunny, C. Dixon, and then Lucy Martin.
Sí, Mónica, ¿puedo decir algo? Hola.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Siga.
¿Puedo decir algo, y Mónica? Soy Jackie. ¿Me escucha?
Sí, la escucho.
No, si con respecto a lo que está diciendo el señor, tiene razón, porque la policía debería de saber también que en el driveway se parquea la gente. Yo creo que ellos sí saben con respecto a eso, así que yo creería que sí, en la seguridad debería estar más seguro.
So Jackie is saying that in regards to parking in people's driveway, she said that people see that and they know that they should be parking in the driveway, and that she hopes that police can pay more attention to that. ¿Eso era todo, Jackie?
Perdón, Mónica.
Que eso era todo. Quería hablar sobre estacionamiento en el pueblo.
Sí, porque la verdad que sí, ese es un problema, porque sí se parquean en los driveways de nuestras casas, entonces creería que la policía les debería de llamar la atención a las personas que están ahí. Porque ni, por ejemplo, como yo como dueña de la casa no me parqueo ni en el driveway y se llegan a parquear otras personas que no son de la casa. Y en realidad a veces no lo dejan salir a uno. Entonces, creería que en ese aspecto también deberían de trabajar.
Okay, voy a
Gracias.
decir ahora en inglés, okay? So she's just saying that like I don't even park in my own driveway like the way people park in my driveway. So she's just saying, asking for more police attention to that issue. She lives in Ward 4.
If you could interpret for me, for a vehicle blocking a driveway or in a driveway, unless you call, we don't know, it doesn't belong there. It could be cousin Millie from Albuquerque who's visiting, or you've someone, your neighbor that you've allowed to park there. But if there's someone blocking your driveway or in your driveway, please call us. As far as Mr. Bowles mentioned, yellow curves and things, those are things we should be catching, and I will personally check on the flat tire. I suspect that it is curbside and wouldn't be seen. So if I saw it, I'd personally mark it, but I'll check on that since we're done here.
And so Jackie, el chief dijo que si eso está pasando, que llame a la policía para dejarles saber y que él va a poner más atención a eso. Y la concejal Melinda Mendoza dijo que si usted quiere, llámela a ella para dejarle saber. Y ella lo comunica con el policía. Okay, Sunny, your go.
Good evening. Yes, my name is Sonny Garibay. I'm a Ward 4 resident. And you know, one of the speakers earlier mentioned, you know, having their children interpret. I'm the youngest of 10 children, and I can relate to that because I was one of those children. You know, these are the plights that immigrants have when they come to this country, when they're you know, working and they're getting mail and they're getting bills and they're getting correspondence. You know, and I think it's basically, you know, it's basically the job of this council, the mayor, is to be able to communicate with their constituency, and wherever that constituent, you know, whoever those constituents are and where they come from. You know, interpretation services are very important, not just for, you know, these meetings, but in a lot of ways, you know, there's a lot of crime. There's a lot of, you know, people don't like to speak up. But I just feel that, you know, it's very important to communicate. That is one of the biggest jobs of a politician, is to communicate to their constituency. And that is a service that is vital. You know, when you want to communicate to people. That's all. I'm a man of few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunny.
Sunny, can you explain, is there a current concern regarding transparency of communication in the town?
Well, my concern with communication is basically what I said. I mean, I've been there. I've been that person that communicated. Okay, when you look at the blank stares of your parents, like what is going on, what is being said, you know, it causes an anxiety that you know, as a child and as you grow up, you really wish that there was some way that could happen. So I mean, you don't always have your kids around to do that. My mother right now, she's still, you know, she still needs interpretation services from us. But, you know, not everyone around here has that opportunity. So, like I said, serving your constituency is your number one, you know, not only when you're running for office, but, you know, these services are vital to communicate, to find these things. If we didn't have these folks here tonight, these young ladies that were out, these other constituents here talking, no one would know what they were saying if there was no one here to translate for them. That's a perfect example right there. So, I mean, you know, if we do have more people of other countries show up, then I would say that we should accommodate them as well, you know, as well.
So outside of tonight's event where we had residents speak in another language other than English. Have there been other instances where you felt that the town has come up short regarding interpretation services?
I haven't really, like, I know, I'll be honest with you, I haven't really delved into that, but you know, I've seen situations where people needed to interpret. I've done it on the street personally. You know, when I see people in the store, when I see people walking and someone's talking to them, I've stepped in and done it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Mhm.
Ms. Dixon?
Good evening. Can you guys hear me? I'm not sure if my mute is working or not working. Am I vocal? Hello?
Yes.
Hello? Thank you. I want to first say, haven't been around in a while, but this still feels the same, familiar, right? There's a lot of contention. It just happens back and forth. There's so much unconscious bias and passive aggression up there that it's sickening to watch sometimes. And that's why I took a bit of a break. But to that extent, I will say, I have asked constantly about being on the Charter Review Board, being on the Ethics Committee, probably a year, maybe going on 2 at this point. I'm starting to feel like I'm just going to be pushed out from that in some way. At one point, to the town administrator, you told me you needed to send out and open it up because there weren't enough volunteers. You sent an email. I was the only one who registered. Still nothing I've heard from you guys. So to my neighbor, Mr. Garabay's comment on interpretation and communication, that goes both ways, right? When we're sitting and we're listening to our Spanish neighbors, I walk around with my cell phone to talk to my neighbor who's been here probably 10 years, and that's how we talk to each other. We get along in that way. But that goes both ways. So when I hear you, Mayor, say it's on your list, when we ask about English speakers being able to get Spanish classes as well, we want to hear that as well. We want that to be a priority on your list. We don't want that to just be on your list. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think you meant it in that way, but I'm just asking for that to be a priority for English speakers to understand and learn Spanish as well, so that we can communicate with our neighbors.
So Ms. Dixon, I think what I want to make clear is that when I push for certain programs or things, like I don't do it on my own. And so there needs to be money set aside for those classes, right? I have people coming here and asking about streetlights and parking and the parking ordinance and noise. So I, as an elected official, need to prioritize all of these issues. And I do agree, because I'm also trying to figure out how to coordinate the English classes for non-English speakers. I'm not forgotten about that at all, not at all. I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, what's our slate? What are we gonna work on in September? And no, I have not forgotten that you want to be on the ethics committee and the charter review. And I don't know if the town administrator wants to talk about this, but we are in communication with our lawyer because the charter review is going to cost us. And I'm not sure if we mentioned it before, but it's going to cost us. So I think that I don't want you to feel that you're being ignored, because trust me, like, that's not gone from my head. And I've only been the mayor for a year and 3 months to be exact. But I will be working on those items.
I appreciate
But
it.
again, for me, it's about prioritizing all the other things that we have. We have a lot of projects that we're working on, but that's not lost on me.
I
So
appreciate it.
you know that you can call me. If
Yep.
you want to help me try to figure this out, then I'm always open to people helping me, which you have in the past, right, with Habitat for Humanity. But again, like I can't do it on my own. We have council members here that can help as well.
I hold you all accountable.
I'm always
equally.
pleading. You have ideas?
I want you to know
How can
that.
we
I
push
don't.
forward?
I want you to know I'm not just meaning you. I'm holding all 4 of those others equally accountable. Every one of them, right? All of you who are sitting there. I hold all of you accountable, them to help you, us to help you, et cetera. But we're not going to get anywhere if we can't work together as a council, right? When we hear the bias going on and we hear the bickering I am an analytical person in my job and by nature. I can sense the tension. People do as well. They don't want to come out in that. They don't want to be bothered in that. They want to come and solve problems with you, with the 5 of you.
Thank you, because that's what I need. And sometimes I feel very disrespected. And I've mentioned it and I'm trying to work through it. But at a certain point, when there's a toxic work environment, I need to protect myself. I'm an elected official. I signed up for this, but I am pleading with the council to work with me. And so I don't mean for you all to see the tension, but it's here. And I don't know how to improve it. We're trying to figure it out.
So when we're getting funding, like when you talk to Mr. Augustine, can any of that type of funding be directed to some of the things that the citizens are asking for, right? So like the ESOL classes and the English and Spanish classes and even trainings for you guys. Can those funds go toward things like that versus, I know you want to help the community and the commercial properties, but doggone it, they come second to us as citizens back here, right? If that money can be averted to doing some of these things, is that a possibility?
Okay, so I'm going to step in for a couple things here. One, you're still the only person on the list for the ethics committee. You have not been forgotten. Two, I have already reached out to we waited on the charter review for this fiscal year because it was not budgeted for. It is budgeted for and is on our schedule to start probably in initial phases in September. That also may not be a committee of the public. That's something that I'm in discussion with the town attorney about based on how he's done it in numerous communities. When it comes to grants, most grants that we can apply for do not apply to things like ESL classes. These are the conversations that the mayor's had or Spanish classes for English speakers or other speakers. These are conversations the mayor's had directly with the county executive over and received pushback. I was there in front of all the other mayors in PGCMA as we were pushing for that. I mean, I don't want to sound insensitive, but we're also a town of limited resources and we can't offer classes for everything. I mean, we had a budget conversation, nothing was budgeted for Spanish classes. I don't know that we even budgeted for ESOL classes, to be honest. I mean, we have a general recreation class line that we use for things like Zumba and occasional other classes. But there are amazing resources in places like the library. I just pulled it up. They have a Spanish conversation class for people learning to speak Spanish. And you can go to the library locally and learn. They have free apps and a free video tutorial right here called Lingo Languages and Transparent Languages Online. I mean, there are a lot of resources. So if people are interested in that, there's also resources to go find that, especially I think it's easier for an English speaker to find Spanish classes through apps, through online services, through classes. The community college has classes. I think it's a lot easier than it is the reverse, especially when what I've learned through the ESOL process and trying to find someone to teach our ESOL classes and how difficult that was. And that was what the county executive even said was the big problem they have was finding qualified ESOL teachers. And she would love to fund things like that, but they can't find the people or keep them to teach those classes. So you have not been forgotten. I also just want residents to realize that a lot of things come through town hall. I've had numerous residents think that I am going to send them a weekly email to give them an update on something, and that's just not reasonable. So you're on the list, and when we have the Ethics Commission finally put together, if you know some people that want to volunteer, I would love to have volunteers. We also have a tree committee that needs volunteers, and obviously all of our other committees. The green team is always in need of new committee members as well.
Okay, so I'm gonna read a comment real quick that Ms. Ramirez put in the chat. So I'm going to read it in Spanish, then translate it into English. It says, buenas noches, quiero dar las gracias por la interpretación al español. Tengo 2 años de vivir acá y por primera vez puedo participar en estas reuniones porque antes nunca vi intérpretes ni en la alcaldía. Solo tengo una observación, me gustaría ver más lámparas que iluminen las calles en todo el vecindario. Eso sí, nunca veo, le prestan atención. Muchas gracias a todos. No puedo ir en persona porque trabajo esta hora, pero gracias por ponerles en Zoom también. So I'm going to translate this into English. Sandra Ramirez, she said, good evening. I want to give you, I want to say thank you for the interpretation. I have 12 years of living here, and for the first time, I'm able to participate in these meetings because before there was no interpretation at the town hall. I also have an observation. I'd love to see more street lighting. So again, with the street lighting, I get it, guys. I get it. Like, we're going to work on it. Okay, the parking and the lighting. Yeah, so that's what she said. And she said, thank you for hosting these meetings on Zoom as well. Lucy, do you want to go ahead?
Hi, thank you. So I just want to apologize for my shaky voice. I have pretty extreme public speaking anxiety, even on Zoom, but it's my first time being able to attend one of these meetings, but I've lived in Colmar Manor for several years. I just wanted to say this is my first time, I don't really have the full picture of the interpretation debate yet, but it does seem pretty ominous to me that anyone would ever seriously suggest reducing language access in local government, if that is what's happening. I'm an attorney. I speak with people with the use of a live interpreter all day, every day. And my opinion is that without live interpretation, there are no rights, there's no due process, there's nothing. The United States legal landscape generally has to be navigated in English. So I hope that live interpretation always happens in these meetings for any language needed. That's all. Thank you.
So there
Thank
seems
you,
to be a
Lucy.
lot of, excuse me, there seems to be a lot of discussion regarding interpretation. Has there been a communication out to the committee or to the towns suggesting there is going to be a reduction of interpretation services?
I'm just here listening to what everyone's talking about. I don't really understand what's going on with the interpretation, but it sounds a little concerning to me.
Go ahead, Lucy, Miss Lucy.
Again?
Go ahead. Did you hear the question?
Yes, did you hear my answer?
I did not. May you repeat that, please?
I'm just listening to what everyone's saying and trying to get a picture. It sounds a little concerning to me, that's all.
Okay. So you're going off of the conversations that you've heard tonight, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Sorry, I just want to note two things as part of this conversation. One, I do want to apologize. There is still an open position for an administrative assistant up front that is a bilingual position. We are interviewing 2 individuals in the next week. That position is still open, so you can find it on the town website and still apply. So for interactions on a daily basis, we do have an intern right now that's actually bilingual and is assisting us, and we'll have a staff member up as well. And then just to point out that interpretation services for council meetings has been budgeted for this year. So that has not been cut out of the budget. I just want to make sure that that's known.
Thank you for clarifying that. And point 2, I've noticed that a lot of residents are not suggesting their block that they live on. Have we changed our processes regarding that? Okay.
Okay, Mr. Casañas. You're muted.
Thank you. Good evening, Council and Mayor. Juan Casañas here on 39th Avenue. I want to applaud the existence of the interpretation and translation that the town has accomplished at the moment. I remember Irina was very pro translation. Again, I really like to appreciate and recognize that, along with Councilmember Malik and Melinda. I also am happy to see that translation, at least in Spanish. Documents are translated in Spanish, and I look forward to seeing this expanded. At least translation, document translation for forms into more common languages spoken in town outside of Spanish and English, and to also revisit the accessibility of ASL, sign language, American Sign Language, for town hall meetings and whenever it's possible. Obviously, again, also whenever translation is possible for Amharic, French, Tahoe, and any other common languages spoken in town outside of English and Spanish.
So I need to ask, because we need to be consistent in asking residents to identify their block that they live on. If we're going to do that, let's be consistent in all of our meetings. That's all.
I believe I did.
Councilmember Brooks. So I just also want to echo what everyone else has said. I want to thank Irina, Malik, Melinda for passing the budget that's still included interpretation. So I just want to make clear that when I'm telling everyone, pay attention, especially around budgeting season, we're budgeting our values. So we need you to be active. We need you to come to these meetings. And, I think that we as a mayor and council need to think through what are the discussions that we're going to have to push what the budget looks like for the next fiscal year, and what are our values? What do we want to keep in town? Is there anyone else here that wants to make a comment? Please remember to give your name and the block that you live on.
The block is the word? Oh, okay. Me again, Ana Palma, Monroe Street. I have seen and I have heard a lot of complaints about illegal parking, blocking driveways. And I just want to point to Chief over here that, I've been here 20, almost 30 years. And the police used to ticket. It doesn't matter, it was my grandma, it was my uncle, it was my whoever that visit me. If it was a blocking my driveway or somebody else's driveway, you got this citation, okay? That used to be part of the town. Prior to the pandemic, we went through a hallelujah of expenses about a parking study. We were giving stickers. I think my cars still have some, if I still remember. So, but I don't see nothing coming out of that much money that we spent on these studies and all this kind of stuff, because nothing is being enforced. All this money was spent, it's already done. The study, you have it, you have the law, if people won't understand verbally in writing, then make a hole in the pocket. When you make a hole on people's pocket, is the only way that they understand. Now, and that's good for the town. You get more money too, But it is understandable, that there were things that were done, and right now they're not being enforced. You have it, practice it. They cry, it doesn't matter. Just give them a handkerchief or a napkin, cry, But if it's part of the law and it's the code that's, but just enforce it. Society, our society is running over the law. They want to be unlawful, but when there is their convenience. But when it's against them, they really wants to enforce the law. It doesn't work like that. So, and you are the only ones that can do what's right, because you have it on your books. Act on it. Act on it. Like I say, I've been here longer than I can remember, and I know because my family got those beautiful citations for not doing the right thing. If it's part of your code, it's, get it out there for 2 weeks, for a week. This is part of the law. This is going to be enforced. And you are communicating. People don't care. Just make them pay. Another thing is that on my previous talk, there is a lot of illegal renting. If you don't have a code to regulate rentals within the town, make it part of your ordinance. It's ridiculous that you have people living on basements that are so unsafe. They are so unsanitary. They are unlivable. Tell you, I work on code enforcement, not for the town, but there are places that are unlivable in this town that are being used as livable space for people that don't live in the town. They live in the beautiful house in Dewey, but they have 3 families living in one house because the attic has 2 rooms. The first floor has 2 rooms, and the basement, they have fixed it, a rodent trap because there's not a safe exit for it to be a living space. If you have a code enforcement, and you have that regulation in your ordinance, work with it, make money with it, make people really understand that safety, humanity cannot be treated like trash the way they do just because they want dollars. It makes no sense.
So in regards to the parking ordinance,
Mhm.
I know that somebody came up and they complained, and I was under the impression, that there was a limit on how many parking stickers people got. I came to find out that there is no cap. So I am going to establish a committee in September. So I already have like 1 or 2 people. If you're interested in being a part of the parking ordinance committee to review it, help us figure it out, make recommendations to the mayor and council, that's what we're going to be working on. Because right now, I know that the chief cringes when I talk about it. It's the ordinance itself is a bit of a mess. So we need to address that and fix it.
The ordinance between trailers and regular parking is 36 pages. I just looked it up.
Yeah, I understand that,
It's a disaster.
Yeah, it was a study that, I don't know how many thousands of dollars you pay for nothing, because it's not being used. But I can tell you that that's when every resident in the town had to have in their ID Colmar Manor. Whoever didn't have Colmar Manor did not have a parking sticker. That's why the non-parking areas were designated, but every resident within this town was made to build in their ID Colmar Manor. I had to go to the MBA to change it because mine used to say Brentwood. So there is ways to regulate this nonsense and this illegality that you have 3 families living in a house that can hardly hold, one. Those are things that are viewed. You see it every day, and you just pray God that nothing happened and people don't die just because of the irresponsibility of owners. I'm sorry. Thank you for taking your time again. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? ¿Hay otra persona que quiere venir a decir algo? Is there anyone else online that wants to say something?
Yeah, I just want to add. So for the Spanish classes, I'd be the one, interested to sign up, and I will try to help you find somebody. But to Mr. Holcomb's point, conversation classes are for those who already speak some Spanish. I was able to understand about 40% of what Miss Sarah Campos was saying, I think. And I took a 1-week Spanish immersion in Colombia, and it was highly benefit. Yeah. Did I mention that? Yeah. In Medellin, by the way. Yeah. It's okay. It's a beautiful place. Anyways, so that was immersion of Spanish class, and it really helped me. But also when I think people now, they're looking for like in-person post-COVID connections and engagements, and it's really important. And I've seen people who are on Zoom, and including my sister-in-law, she's been taking English classes. Sometimes, you like have to force yourself to be present in the meetings, or if you even study the language. If you don't, you zone out, you just, you don't learn, or you don't learn as much. So, I think I would entertain the idea for Spanish the same we had for English, once a week. How often do we have for maybe Saturdays, 3 hours, like intensive, maybe breaks in between. But I think that would help engage people, or give them a little bit of foundation to build upon. And also another note, not everybody knows how to teach oneself a language. And I'm not bilingual, I'm trilingual. So I know there was a point made, it would be nice to communicate. Yeah, I'll make an effort to study your language. Please make an effort to study English as well. It's, it may be helpful in any communications, and also it's just because you live here. It's the right thing to do. So I think I can teach myself a language because I know how maybe language works as a linguist, and I can try and figure it out, but not everybody can do that, and maybe they need that extra support, whether it's a led by instructor support or it's a group and a group setting by other classmates. So yes, I'm happy to. I'll try
Thank you.
to do that. Yeah, I'm thinking, what avenues I will brainstorm where I can engage in.
Thank you. I
know,
really
like
appreciate that.
community colleges or any other lists like for
Yeah.
interpretation that I could think for Spanish. But yes, I'll try to see what we can do. And
I appreciate that because instead of coming to me and saying, hey, are we doing Spanish classes yet? You're saying, hey, I'll help you find them.
right,
So
yeah,
thank you. That's how we work as a team. I really appreciate that.
thank-
And I
thank
think
you.
to me, it's wonderful that people want to learn how to speak Spanish. So we add that to the
Yeah.
priority list, right?
Ki-
Because
yeah, I'll be specifically looking for a teacher from Colombia because that's the language that I understand, right? I'm just joking. Because I've heard that Spanish is not fast, it's just very proper from Colombia. And that's, I've seen that and people speak
I don't know if the town can handle 2 Colombians. I mean, we're a handful.
Venezuelans, you heard how they talk. So I don't want to.
Well, actually, so this comes to like, I'm gonna just say this real quick and then I'm done. This comes to like something else, like idea that I have. And people think that I'm joking when I say this, but I am not joking. I want to create a sister city. And I think in Prince George's County, we need to create sister cities. So Montgomery County has them. They have a sister city to El Salvador. I want to have a sister city to El Salvador, and I want to have a sister city to the Philippines. I'm putting
Yeah.
it out there. I want to work towards
yeah.
having sister cities to those 2 countries.
Yeah, and there is a sister city association in the United States, and I believe that's how you go. Maybe that's an avenue to start with. I've heard it through my professional jobs.
Yeah.
That there is the way that's how you
And
get
so
established.
I forgot to mention this in the mayor's report and Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza. So we are having a neighbor circle that is targeted to the Filipino community, and it starts on Thursday. And I'm so excited about
What
it.
time?
7.
Okay.
So we're gonna do one of our first neighbor circles here. So I just want to thank Council Member Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza for working to make that happen, and also Pat, who grew up in this town, that is helping coordinate it. Okay, so if there are no other comments, then let's move on to the next piece of the agenda. Thank you, everyone who came up and made a comment. We hear you. We hear you. So take it away, Greg.
Okay, first item of business is the acceptance and budgeting of the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention Recreational Programming Grant we received in the amount of $56,380. This involves overtime pay of $15,000 for police officers to participate in recreational programming. It allows us to hire $32,500 for salary, which comes out to about 25 hours a week at $25 an hour for a recreation coordinator. 10% of that, or another 10% of that 32.5 for fringe benefits and taxes. There is some admin cost built in to help offset office staff work that may be involved in this. And then it allows us to buy basketballs, basketball nets, kickballs, pickleball nets, pickleball paddles, pickleballs. Apparently you need those too. A volleyball net system because ours is broke, new volleyballs, and it allows us to purchase tickets to a baseball game to allow some members of the community, we have to decide how that will go about, but members of the community to participate with the police department. And so the whole point of the grant was community policing. If we decide to go youth oriented, we have to do a survey of the youth before they start the program versus after. The grant does require that the police participate in at least once a month in an activity with the residents. And so the coordinator would help develop these programs for the next year, organize it all, put it on, and then we'll coordinate with the police department to get them involved in that as well. So we need to accept this grant and to budget it, which I think you can do in one motion, I believe. So the motions to accept and budget the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention or Crime Control and Prevention Grant Award CGPF 2024-0018 in the amount of $56,380.
Councilmember Harding, I'll make the motion as stated by our town administrator.
Councilmember Melinda Mendoza, I will second that.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Councilmember Harding, I'd like to add on record that I said my mic was off.
Okay. So I just want to say thank you to our town administrator and our police chief for their work on getting this grant for us. So thank you so much.
Item number 2 is job description. So as the mayor stated, we had a retirement in the town. Mr. Gorham, our public works supervisor, retired after over 45 years of service to the town, which leaves his position open. And then also, because you just accepted the grant, we have a job description in here for a recreation coordinator. So those have been presented to you for acceptance or questions. They're right after the grant. And so just to clarify, the public works supervisor position, it's in the big packet. It's right after the grant. The only reason it's before you tonight, so technically the position is open and you've budgeted for it, so we could just hire it. This is a much more detailed job description. So this is updating the job description to be a more modern job description.
I move to open the discussion on the public works supervisor and the recreation coordinator to approve for those positions.
I'm sorry,
Wait.
can you repeat that? And I couldn't hear you.
Ward 3, Keith Brooks moves to open the discussion for the approval of the public works supervisor and the recreation coordinator positions based off the grants.
So you're just moving to approve.
Okay.
Got it. Second.
Councilmember Harding, I'll second it.
Okay, so any discussion on this?
So for the public works supervisor on line 3, develops reviews, advises, assists the city manager and city commission regarding departmental issues. Do we need to adjust that?
Yeah, I thought I caught all those.
Okay. And then on the job summary, under the general supervision of the town administrator and mayor, plans, organizers, supervises the operation and personnel of the public works department. Is there a reason why we have 2 supervisors for the position?
Yeah, actually, so under the setup of our government, the mayor is the technical supervisor. However, most of that is passed off to me as being the full-time employee of the town.
So who will the individual have their annual reviews with?
Both.
Okay. Based off the qualifications, I'm looking forward to this position. Knowledge of civil engineering principles, practices, methods applicable in municipal setting. High degree of diplomacy in contentious and confrontational situations. Effectively communicate ideas and concepts early in writing and making presentations in public forums. Just hope that we allow them to do their job. Thank you.
So I just also want to make clear that for this particular job description, this is a supervisor, and the amount of money that we're allotting for this, we're not sure what we're going to get. So this might take a while to get filled, or we might have to look at increasing the pay, or we might have to look at different alternatives. So Greg and myself have spoken with our Public Works Department. So we've sat with both Kevin and Ray. They understand the situation. They will also be involved in the interviewing process. I reached out, so again, going back to MML, it was Fairmont Heights, right? Meeting Fairmont Heights, which the mayor and the council from that town, they are similar size as Colmar Manor. They have their own trash collection service, like they do it themselves. They have 5 public works staff. I reached out to see if they could come here and meet us and give us some recommendations, and they said yes. And so I'll make sure to pass this along to their public works supervisor, but I just want to make it very clear, like we're asking for a lot. We might not get many respondents. So we might have to get a little creative on this, but fingers crossed that we get somebody.
What was the estimated salary range for this position?
It's what the current rate is 65,000.
Oh, is there further discussion? No? Okay. All in favor, say aye. To accept the job description. We just are talking about, oh, both? Oh, he made the motion for both. Okay, so is there any discussion on the recreation coordinator?
So on the recreation coordinator, under the requirements include the following: maintains the site emergency action plan and coordinates periodic safety inspections and maintenance of facilities and grounds. Is that in conflicting with your codes enforcer, chief?
No, this would be in relation to the athletic facility. Code enforcement wouldn't have anything to do with that. This is essentially it's making sure that if we have an athletic or recreational program, we have emergency plan developed to get kids out or to get the adults out, or to make sure that the volleyball system is up to standard and not falling apart or any other dangers.
And is this contingent on the grant? Would this be a continuous position that we have?
That is for you all to decide in the next budget. So we have it, the money has to be spent within 1 year of the acceptance of the grant.
Okay, I was asking just
Yeah.
to understand whether or not this is something maybe we want to put in the charter to have an ongoing resource of this nature to help support that, or is this just a one-time thing?
It's a budgeting.
Yeah, it would be under the budget. This would be a discussion for you all to have of how to continue that.
Okay, so any further discussion? The salary?
So it was so the grant was for it's a total of 32,500, which came out to $25 an hour for 25 hours a week. And it will be very flexible hours because we hope to have them on weekends, evenings. And the goal, I mean, one of the major goals other than planning events is to actually have open gym hours, better open gym hours.
So this is also just to remind people that we used to have a recreation coordinator. but over COVID, we didn't budget for that, I believe, correct? So this is the first time that we'd have a rec coordinator since Ms. Renee passed. Okay, so all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay, thank you again.
Item number 3, EcoSite LLC engineering proposals for sidewalk repair, stormwater management, and the Green Street improvements. So I'm bringing this forward to you all just to kind of keep you updated on the work that I'm trying to get done regarding ARPA. So we do have the money set aside, $400,000 for street and sidewalk repairs and $160,000 in stormwater repairs or management work. And so I had reached out, EcoSite works in Edmonston, Mount Rainier, Cheverly, North Brentwood, a lot of the communities around us. And they're a relatively affordable engineering firm that specializes in stormwater and green stormwater management practices. And so I asked them for scope of work regarding our sidewalks, for the Newark Road, Green Street improvements, and then he had discussed with me some issues, potential issues with storm drain systems, and what's been accepted by the county and not accepted by the county. So a little history on that before I go into what I'm going to ask you here for is apparently back in the 70s when the storm drains used to be managed by WSSC, and the county wanted to take them over. And so they were transferred over, but the county only took storm drains that were over, I believe it was 14 inches in diameter and made of only certain materials. If they were made of a certain type of concrete, they wouldn't accept them. So even if they were over 14 inches, they would deny them. And so he's finding in some older communities, Mount Rainier is having a major issue with this right now, that there are storm drains that they have in their network that are not being maintained by the county because the county never accepted them. And so the proposal, this third proposal, is he is offering to do an assessment of that, of what the town has, and if there are not storm drains and sewers that are accepted, then to have the county accept them. And so one of the issues that does get brought up is often the county does not necessarily proactively maintain these storm drains. They reactively maintain them when something happens. And so this puts them on the radar, just so that they know that it's theirs and there isn't a jurisdictional type issue down the road. With that said, the sidewalk repair quote that he gave, I believe, is a little bit on the high side for what he's offering. We've already paid a contractor to walk the town and do an assessment. Mr. Gorham took that assessment and walked around and did a further assessment to narrow down the most dangerous sections that he saw. And so Mr. Baden has offered, he has done this in the several towns that he's worked for over the years of doing programs like this. And so I think we can go ahead and skip this first one and let Mr. Baden work on that in-house to save some extra money towards the construction. The Newark Road, Green Street improvements. I'm also going to ask you to hold on this one too. Again, I said I'm bringing this forward just to show you that things are happening. But I wrote a grant and included this in that grant. And so if the grant gets awarded, then we have this quote, we can move ahead with it fast. If the grant's not awarded, then I will bring this back and ask you just to have the rest of the engineering done on the Green Street. And by doing that, we would then have the entirety of the Green Street engineered, and we only have to look for construction money at that point, instead of piecemealing every intersection and every little block. Yes. That was in the in my report. The Chesapeake Bay Foundation did award us a grant for $80,450 for the construction of the Newark and 43rd Street intersection. And then finally, the storm drain assessment. This one I'm also going to hold for right now. I do see some value in it if what he is saying comes to fruition. There are a couple more variables in there and details of what we would get out of that type of inspection. But as Mr. Baden and I were talking, we want to reach out to the county first and find out what they've accepted, and kind of do some due diligence before accepting this quote. But I do think this could be a potential next step from the stormwater management side of things. So with that said, I'm not looking for any action on number 3. Unless you want to pass one of them. But do you have a question?
Do I need to open up discussion, or do we just?
If you have questions,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
But
Okay, so with the first one on the sidewalk repair and replacement, since we've already done the studies, and what is this our only quote, or have we received multiple?
No, so yeah, I only reached out because it's a professional service. The town ordinance doesn't require that I get multiple quotes. His hourly rate is by far the least expensive hourly rate I have seen out of any engineering firm that I've looked at. So, and it's based on the fact that he's been doing all the work around us too. So he's managing the sidewalk replacements and construction. It's not just replacements. In Edmonston, they had a lot of streets that do not have sidewalks. And so he's essentially the firm that's building out all their 80 rain gardens and putting in their sidewalks. So it was based on recommendation from the neighboring towns of who they worked with.
Thank you. And then how soon do we need to make this decision once?
So on this, we don't need to make a decision on this at all. Mr. Baden and I can start this week and through August, the beginning part of August now, or end of July, I should say, to get the RFP out or request for bids to do the work on what we've already established.
Okay. I was just trying to.
Yeah. And just like I said, Mr. Gorham did walk. He took that master list kind of that we had that had every crack and chip. Correct. And Mike went through and identified ones he saw that were more tripping hazards and potential danger as opposed to just a crack. Because it did come out to something like 19,000 linear feet of sidewalks, and that's a lot of concrete.
And with the other neighboring municipalities offering this recommendation, did they say whether or not this group recommends a contractor that shaves the sidewalk to level it out, or actually lifts it up and does the underground?
Yeah, no, the recommendation is to replace. And so usually what happens is if there's buckling and there isn't a tree located nearby, there's an erosion underneath. And so the substrate may have some issues. And so in those situations too, a lot of times the sidewalk's already cracked. So you want to replace that. But you could lift it and do something underneath, but you actually need, as it was explained to me, is you really need a visual and to dig under there to find out what is causing that, because they may have to put something else underneath to stabilize the ground. It may just be eroding too much. And then around locations where trees are, there was a suggestion with this flex paved sidewalks. It's something that Mount Rainier is doing a lot. They have larger trees in their tree boxes. And so the flex pave will allow the tree to go over the roots and allow the tree to grow without damaging the sidewalk and giving a smooth surface.
Okay. And then lastly, the replacement versus fix on site, is there any, would this organization be able to provide any insight to the quality and the longevity of that type of, I guess, solution? So so what we have now, the quality of it, how long it's lasted versus them installing new, and will it be 15 years and we need to do some more work on it, or is it like hey, this is 30 years and you're good to go?
I don't know that I have an answer for that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, though.
So item number 4 is what we've labeled the ARPA realignment discussion, and then a request underneath that. So Mr. Baden. This was the initial discussion about the lost revenue.
That's a big discussion. I thought you were just doing it.
I can just
based
do that
on the
part.
Electric vehicle.
I can just do that if you want to
Um,
wait.
Well, I mean, it'd be good to give
Yeah.
give an update just for general knowledge. So I think everyone's aware by now that our ARPA funds, excuse me, have to be obligated or expended by December 31st, 2024. Excuse me. And if they are obligated, then you have to expend them by December 31st, 2026. I don't know if anyone's paying attention, but I think it's a little complicated process. So I'd like your attention over here, please. So this has to do with the allocation of ARPA funds. So as you know, the town has a program that we came up with over the last few years on how we intend to expend the ARPA funds. But one thing that we're going to start running into is that if we don't expend them, they possibly will go back to the federal government. We have to repay them if they're not expended or obligated by December 31st, 2024. One of the things that we have done is that we have designated all of the funds that we received as being accountable as lost revenue. I had come before the council about a year ago and asked for us to make that designation, which means if you receive less than $10 million, which we received like 1.3 million, and you designated all as lost revenue, then you could use those funds, the ARPA funds, for any general government purpose. So to me, that means anything in your entire budget. So in order to satisfy the obligation or expenditure of those funds, one thing that we could do is we could say we're using the ARPA funds to fund our general government operations, our public works operations, and our police operations this year. And therefore, by the end of this year, we will have expended all of our ARPA funds and met the requirements. Now, if we did that, what that would mean is that all the tax revenue and things like that would fall into a surplus at the end of the year, because we're saying we're using our ARPA funds to meet the everyday obligations of the town. So it allows us to, satisfy by the end of probably this fiscal year, if you all make that election, the ARPA requirements, but then it does leave us a huge surplus that you could then use for all of your ARPA projects at that point. So you could still do whatever ARPA projects that you want, but it kind of takes the substantiation away early on, before the deadline. If you wait until next budget year to do that, it would be hard to expend, depending on what other work we've done over this current year, it would be hard to expend, let's say if we got $1 million. $1 million of our budget, general fund budget, between July 2024 and December 31st, 2024. To expend those monies. So it's a way that we could meet the requirements of ARPA and the expenditure by the end of next year and not have to worry about giving money back if we don't. So it's just something to think about tonight. We're not asking you to take any action on it, but I asked Greg that we bring it up and at least put it out there on the table. Some of the benefit is that we'd be able to substantiate the use of the ARPA before the deadline. Some of the drawbacks would be, well, what about the 30 projects or however many projects that we allocated? If we're now saying we're going to fund the general fund budget with ARPA funds, how do we know those other projects are going to get completed? That's, an administrative aspect side of it that, you'd have to weigh out the pros and cons with it. As we get into this fiscal year, I think there's, we do need to take a look at the ARPA funding or the projects that we funded for and probably reallocate some of that anyway. Some of those projects we will have completed. Some of them we may want to reconsider, like stormwater management of 165,000. Are we really going to be able to put a project in place by the end of December 2024 to obligate those funds? I have my doubts. So why are we going to keep that on the books and talk about it to the end of next year and then give the money back? So those are, some of the pros and cons associated with it.
One of the other pros is it saves $18,000 because we won't need the ARPA consultant anymore. So that's $18,000 that can be used towards something else, part of the rec coordinator for year 2. But I think the big thing to take out of this is what's interesting is that it allows us, there's been so many times since I've come on that we've come back to you all to say, hey, let's realign and let's change this in ARPA because needs came up. And then we do it. And so what this would allow us to do is get rid of all the regulatory headache and paperwork of ARPA and actually lay out a plan. So I would look at it almost as like a capital improvement type plan that we can lay out over the next 4 years and buy us a little bit more time to actually think some of these things through. So things like the stormwater management, that to me is great matching fund money towards grants that we could apply for to do other things to bring more money in. However, there's no way to determine if we're going to be able to get that in time by the deadline that ARPA has. The other issue is if it's a federal grant that we're applying for something like stormwater management, you can't use ARPA as matching funds for a federal grant. You can't use federal for federal. So this would be town money being used as the matching fund for a federal grant. And so we may be able to leverage that even more. So I think it's worthwhile. So my goal is, and what I'm offering to you all, so I've given you kind of a work schedule of what my goals are for kind of legislatively for you all in the next fiscal year through June. It's very rough and small, like more will be added as we go through and it will be realigned as we discuss it. But one thing that I think I would like in that first, in September, I could put together a plan to show what projects we wanted to do in ARPA, how we would go about doing that and phasing them, and then maybe other needs that we may have in there that we could address with this surplus money if we went through with what Mr. Baton suggested.
So just make sure I'm understanding. So since the funds are less than 10 million, we can designate a lost revenue and then use the funds before the December 2024 deadline for general admin. And because we use those funds for the general admin and basically use them all to the nth degree, we're able to have a surplus. In that surplus that we gain from not using our normal dollars for general admin, but using ARPA, we're able to use that for an extended period of time.
Well, I explained that pretty well, didn't I? If you can, you comprehended that perfectly.
You're a good teacher.
It's like, yeah, good, perfect.
All right.
I'm not gonna
The only
lie.
thing is the expenditure is not just the administrative, it would be all of the functions that town has up to the amount that we need to spend. So it'd be police, public works, general government. And there are some revenues that we get from speed camera, from highway users and state aid for police protection that have to be used for police or public works. So we back that out, but everything else we could add up to get to the number we need to. So it would be all functions of the town.
Okay, so all operations of the town. All right.
Yes.
All right, I understand that. My next question is, and you made the comment of we do this, and then it's on us as a council member or whoever's on the council at that time to make sure we still use the money for the projects. What other unintended consequences could we think about?
I think that's probably the main one, and your control as a council member over that is the budget process. So, those surplus funds have to be included in the budget, and if you don't, agree to it by a majority, then it's, it can't happen. As of now, I can't think of any other consequences for it. It just gives us time to use, generate plans, as Greg had said, and meet the requirements so that, technically by the end of this fiscal year, we may be able to report that we've used all of our ARPA funds, and therefore the government, if they are looking for money, to balance something else, they can't take it back, which I've heard that as being a concern, especially with the last deficit funding the federal government went through. I think it's a far reach that they would actually go to these ARPA funds that they gave to local, to governments, because there's 19,500 governments in the United States that receive ARPA funding under this program. And I would think a lot of those governments are the main supporters for the politicians and the federal government. So I don't think they tick off 19,500 governments by taking anything back. So I don't believe it would ever happen, but that has been a concern expressed by, other agencies.
And this proposal would free us up from certain limitations currently with ARPA?
Currently, there's not really any limitations because we already have made the one-time election to use the funds as lost revenue, which has already freed us up to use those funds for any general government purpose. So we've already made that election.
Yeah, I think the limitation would be down the line that you all as a council hear from the public and say, this is a new concern or a growing concern from the community to address some issue. And we're locked in on ARPA because you all decided this is how we're allocating the money and we can't unlock it. And so we have to do stormwater management, or we have to do something, whatever it is in ARPA that we haven't done yet.
Very interesting solution.
So with that said, I do have one request to reallocate funding. And this is part of the problem that we keep coming up with is the reallocation. And so towards the back here, after the grants, you'll see the little car guy there. I think for those that were at MML, you may have seen this vehicle on the floor. It was down one of the main aisles. And so part of the public safety grant through the Department of Housing and Community Development, there was $16,000 awarded to us to buy a utility vehicle. And so these utility vehicle essentially was a small two-seater with a little short bed on the back to use for like town cleanups and what have you. Since then, those prices have gone up since I wrote the grant, of course. And so we're very limited on what we can actually purchase with that $16,000, even for a utility vehicle. And then the other issue is that we don't have a vehicle, a suitable vehicle, I will say, for the code enforcement. And so one of the solutions that I saw when I went and looked at the Polaris, which was the small utility vehicle that was also on the floor, and said, yeah, this is the thing I want. That was going to be about $25,000. And it still didn't have like doors. And so down the aisle was this, what's called the Gem. And the Gem is fully electric. The Polaris, the one we would have been able to buy at $25,000, was still diesel. So it would not have been sustainable. And so this utility vehicle is much bigger. It's not quite the size of a full-size truck, but it's not a tiny, it's not like a go-kart looking machine. So I had them price it out for me. They still have to get me the final number on what it is, but it's going to be below 30,000. So we have 16,000 from the grant. So there's a need for about $14,000 to move ahead with the purchase. Now I will add that what I'm quoting is for a price of one they have in stock. If we have to get it from the manufacturer, it's a 9-month leeway for them to get it out of the manufacturer, retrofit it, because the demand is so high. So universities, in fact, I added this, this colored sheet that was on the side. There's a cost of ownership comparison on there from a full-size truck to the vehicle is called an ELXD, specifically the one I'm looking at. And so this cost comparison is actually coming from a university that switched over 100 of their trucks to these. And so this is happening with the electrification and everything. The vehicle does not go over 35 miles an hour, so we do not have to worry about people speeding in it. It would have a towing package added to it, so you can add a trailer to it as well. It has plenty of storage that you could use for town events to put with locked doors on the back. So you can put things like generators or orange cones or your basic tools and shovels, but yet also have the capability of putting full garbage bags in there from a town cleanup. What's really nice about it too, both the back bed and the front, everything's waterproof and easy to clean. There's actually drain holes in the front cabin, so you can actually spray it out. It's a rubberized floor and the seating's waterproof. So it actually is very easy to clean, and the back bed is very similar. So by doing this, we can get rid of the 2004 Ford Interceptor, the white car that's out there with the light bar that doesn't work. We can put that up on Gov Deals to sell it. We probably can get about $2,000 out of it, to be honest, if we put it up on Gov Deals, which will help offset some of this. But it definitely would give us a much more professional code enforcement vehicle and a backup for the town's public works as well. So we obviously need one of the pickups for plowing, but the other pickup is also, I think, a 2004. It's very old. So do you have any questions?
So we just make a motion on this? Is that what?
I'd say make a motion and then we open it up
For
for
discussion.
discussion and then we, yeah, go from there.
Councilmember Harding, I'll make a motion on the accepting the request for 14,000 to purchase a GEM electric vehicle for public works and code enforcement.
Councilmember Melinda Mendoza, I second that.
Okay, so discussion.
So on the maintenance of this, who do we send it to if it ever needs maintenance?
Yes. Sorry, we're trying to figure out which ARPA lines that you can pull it out of.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Very good question. So the dealer is local, so they would have the capabilities of assisting us with that. Well, local, they're in the Mid-Atlantic region and they have local representatives in the area, so they would be the ones assisting us with that.
So it's within 50
Yes,
miles?
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
One of the things they pointed out is that there is a warranty on it, but it also is, as you can tell by the cost comparison, is very low maintenance. You don't have moving parts. It's the battery essentially is the main thing you have to worry about, and your wheels. You know, you don't have a combustion engine moving around and causing problems. So
where would we store this?
yes, outside. So it is fully lockable with full doors and windows. That was one of the issues about going with the other type, the Polaris that I was looking at, was that the one we could afford didn't even have doors. The doors they did have were kind of flimsy. And so I was worried about storing that outside. One of the other reasons too that I picked the box type as opposed to a flatbed is so that things don't sit in that. You have an enclosed area so that it kind of keeps the water off of it as well.
Who will have access keys to this device?
Probably code enforcement, public works. So the grant requires that it's a public safety grant, so it's the police department's vehicle. So that's why we're suggesting using it for public works, or for code enforcement, but also it was written in there that it would be for public works to do community cleanups. So it would have to be jointly used for the grant.
Where would it get charged?
Very good question. It plugs into a normal outlet. Yeah, it does not require a special charging station. Now, with that said, I probably have to get an outlet put on the outside of the building. We did learn through the air monitoring group. They came to town hall and we were up on the roof trying to install one of the air monitors, and both outlets on the roof do not work. And so there's only one outlet on the entire outside of this building, and it's right by the front door. So I was going to have our electrician, they're coming in for to discuss some other issues, and I was going to see if they can just run an outlet off to the side if we moved forward.
So obviously you're going to be the first one to drive it, either you or Chief. I want to be the second.
We might have to pull straws. I don't know if Freddie would be the first one.
Yeah.
Freddie, Chief, Greg, and then me. Irina, you're not going to say anything? It's electric.
Woogie, woogie, woogie.
So last two, are we able to gain any points for the green team for purchase?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No, this would be very much in line with that.
Okay. And then lastly, how does this handle the thermal runaway and cell rapture if it's overheated or overcharged?
If you type out what you just asked, I can send it to the dealer.
So
and
so
find out.
there's certain battery enclosures that basically suppress the combustion or fire, so it doesn't spread and doesn't burn up. So when we were in the risk management of MML, that was one of the examples they showed us. They had a maintenance department, they had a vehicle, it was vandals, it set fire to everything, and they lost all their equipment. So I'm just trying to risk management.
Yeah, I would have to find out. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
So line 6376 in the budget is FY 23-24 unallocated ARPA expenditures, and there's $34,628 in there.
So we have a motion on the table right now. So is it, we move forward with this motion and then we have to have another motion?
Or you could amend it to say if you're authorizing the $14,000.
Yes.
So you would create a new line. You would reallocate from 6376 unallocated ARPA $14,000 to a new line called electric vehicle. We want to be detailed so people know what it is.
Okay, so I think there's a request for the motion to be amended.
Councilmember Harding, I'll amend my motion to approving the request for 14,000 to purchase a GEM electronic vehicle for public works and code enforcement. What was the amendment with allocating unallocated ARPA funds to a new line item electric vehicle?
Yes.
Councilmember Melinda Mendoza, I second that.
So discussion? Okay, so all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay. Nay. And the reason why I said nay is I definitely fully agree that we need this. I just need to understand the thermal runaway question. So as soon as you get that, yeah, I'm a yay. But with that, I'm a nay today.
Now.
All right, thank you. So
closed
now,
session.
oh, now we go into a closed session?
Yep.
Okay, so, yeah, so now we're gonna go into a closed session. Thank you, everyone who came out tonight, everyone who's on Zoom. We're gonna close this to go over a personnel and contractual matter. And then we'll come back, but then we're gonna close out the meeting and adjourn for the evening. So please don't forget, any issues, call the non-emergency line. If it's an emergency, call 911. If you're afraid to report something, you can write an anonymous letter. You can talk to any of the council members or anyone in the town hall office. We will be putting out a 1-year recap on all the work that mayor and council have done over the past year. Greg will print it out and have it ready, and we'll post it on Facebook and social media and whatnot. For the month of August, we'll be doing some professional development amongst the mayor and council, and then we'll get back to work in September. But I'm always open to talk. I'm sure the council members are always open to talk. Feel free to call me, feel free to email us. And thank you for all of the amazing discussions that we've had tonight. Thank you. So now I would like to request that we go into a closed session.
Councilmember Hobbs makes the motion to.
Councilmember Brooks for 3 seconds.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. Okay, we're back in our open meeting out of the closed session. And I'd like to request a motion to accept the proposal from Bates Trucking to continue our contract with them. I'm requesting a motion.
This is Councilmember Melinda Mendoza. I've made that motion stated.
Is there any discussion?
Based off of
Okay, so I'd like to request a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Great. So, okay, so pedí por una votación sobre el contrato con la compañía de basura que es Bates y aceptamos el nuevo contrato con Bates para que continuemos usando sus servicios. Y todos votamos sí. And so now I'd like to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Can we do that now? Okay, so I'd like to request a motion to have a budget adjustment to allow for the over budget amount of 17,850. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Actually, I forgot to ask if there was discussion. Sorry. No discussion, okay. So all opposed, say nay. Okay. So now can we adjourn? Are we good? Okay, so I'd like to move to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Okay, thank you. Woo-hoo.